You can tell this is a vampire book.
Yes, indeed.
You can just tell from just how creepy it is. That used to be a man. That picture we're looking at.
Really?
Yeah.
I
At
couldn't
one
tell.
point, used to be a man.
We get to talk about the clan. The number one clan, everybody's favorite. And I told you it still cracks me up that the Fenris got canceled, but the Tzimisce, no, you can still play the Tzimisce.
Yeah, they're fine.
still playable.
Yeah. Look at how cool they
So-
are. They have to be playable.
This is going to be a very interesting debate because who is the worst person? Do you think it's the Tzimisce or do you think it's the Setites? I asked that question to my Hunter the Reckoning group, and one of them gave me the answer Setites, but it was a toss-up with everybody else.
I mean, the Setites are despicable on like a human sense, just from the constant human trafficking and turning people to sin. They're just immoral. The Tzimisce are out and out evil. They're psychopaths. They might not do well. Actually, they probably would do human trafficking to do some of the things they wanted, but they go so much deeper into how they tear people apart.
They'll traffic you, but you won't be a human by the end of it.
Exactly. Like the Setites are human standard immoral evil. The Tzimisce are fiendish. Hence why they are called fiends.
Now, for this episode, we have to do a few vocabulary terms. I'm going to go over with you on those now. We have 3 words we need to recognize. All right?
Mm-hmm.
We have Koldun, which is wormish sorcery. The way it's formed, that is magic that is in the process of, I call a bane a worm. I get power from that bane. I cast magic through it, and if you're to tie this into werewolf, get a point of possession through it. We also have the Voivode, which is a word that pretty much translates into landlord. That's what it translates to. And next up, the Zulo, which is the horrifying war form of the Tzimisce, where they decide they want to coat their entire bodies in bone. Now you may be asking, well, how does that happen? It is because the Tzimisce have the power that everybody wants to get their hands on. Vicissitude.
Vicissitude is so fucking good.
Yes.
Now tell me, this is a Ring of Gyges kind of scenario. What all could you do if you had Vicissitude with you?
You could do whatever the fuck you wanted to your body and to anybody else's body.
I was going to say a fantastic example would be Parasite, the anime, but I'm thinking more on the lines of it was a crappy movie, but it had Scarlett Johansson in it, Lucy, where it's a woman that gained 100% control over the cells in her body. That's what you can do with Vicissitude.
I liked the movie.
Yeah, it was good, and then it just kind of like wrote itself into a corner.
The plot was kind of all over the place, but like all the effects are really cool.
Like I said before, I'm a simple man.
Hence why you're
Simple man, you
playing
just need to see Scarlett Johansson.
I see a movie about 100% brain power. I'm like, ooh, Ryan Likey.
I can't do that. Maybe I should learn. I should watch and learn.
We read this off of TED Talk. We're going to make a movie out of it now.
Yes.
Using your brain? Sign me up.
You told me you got half a brain? And here's the thing. Kyle, I told you I had to do a lot of reading to get the Salubri story. And same thing with the Glasswalkers, because I had to read 5 different source books to get the full story on the Glasswalkers. The Tzimisce, it was a total of 10 different books that I had to get the info from.
Yeah, when you told me that, I was like, why is there so much on the Tzimisce?
Because when you make an idea as brilliant as the Tzimisce, you don't stop writing about the Tzimisce.
That's very, very fair.
And to give you an idea, graphic content warning, this is your one and only chance. Don't believe us? Look at some of the artwork pages I posted in history pages.
Yes, so
This
the
is gonna be
artwork in this book, or in
It's
many of the
fucking
Tzimisce
weird.
books, they're weird, but they're also incredible. It's such a great mix between eldritch horror and body horror. It's like,
Exactly.
it's a lot like The Thing.
The funny thing about that is, that artwork looks almost completely homogeneous with Book of the Worm First Edition. Some of those pictures look almost the exact same.
Well, with
The two
Khaldunic
books.
sorcery, you call upon power from the worm anyway.
Yeah, exactly. We said that the Setites were the wormish vampire. I still stand beside that. The Tzimisce use powers from the worm, but get the better end of the deal from the worm. They're not being controlled by the worm. The Tzimisce have been in power from the beginning. And when you read about these guys, it drives home just how hopeless a world of darkness is. Would you
Yes.
believe me if I told you these Tzimisce could end the world today and there'd be no preventive method to it?
Yes.
They can just win whenever they want.
Yes.
They are ludicrously powerful.
And we begin that ludicrous power with the origin story. Tell me, what can you tell me about King Enoch?
I've heard you talk about it before, but I don't recall much about him.
Get a little closer to your microphone.
Yes.
So he is the son of Cain, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, that's right. I remember now.
First vampire. And the thing is, Tzimisce wasn't fired in the traditional sense. King Enoch, in a convoluted magical sacrifice, tried to eliminate the beast within him. He wanted to stop eating people from the curse of Cain, and tried doing so through a black magic sacrifice, where he took all of his negative emotion, focused on that, tried to make that manifest, and implanted that in a man handpicked for him by Erad the Strong. Enoch sired him, and the plan was that we were going to sacrifice him to God, and that would purge Enoch of all of his inner evil. The thing is, the guy that was selected for the sacrifice escaped. Good sign, right?
Yeah.
Now, who is that guy in question? He is known as the Eldest, a man who is so old, nobody knows his original name. Cain never met the guy, and Enoch and Irad, they're both dead, and there's no way he can really contact them. So we have no idea who this man is, besides one detail. He was a wizard. Age the Ascension type stuff. And this guy had a sphere rating of, at the very least, 5 in a ret. And looking at the different spheres of magic, you know a little bit about mage, right?
I'm very thin on mage. We even talked a whole lot about mage.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get the concept of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But a ret 5 is already pretty fucking crazy.
So, looking at the spheres of magic, you can only have so many spheres when you make a character in mage. So looking at this, if I were to guess what the Eldest had in terms of his paradigm and his spheres, this would be about 4 or 5 in correspondence. We'll say 4 in entropy, 0 in forces. He's now a forces guy. That's Tremere stuff. 5 in life, 5 in spirit. I'd say 1 or 2 in matter, 5 in mind, 5 in spirit, 0 in time. The dude had close to mastery in 7 different spheres of magic.
Guy's fucking crazy.
The thing is, with Enoch using him for that sacrifice, that closed off the path of ascension. It stated in here, we're using Clan Tzimisce first and second edition as my source here. The Eldest was trying to ascend. He wanted to reach ascension. He wanted to go to Eret 6 and beyond. But that got closed off because in the process of becoming a vampire, you lose your avatar, as we know with the Tremere, and you no longer get to pass on to heaven or hell. When you die as a vampire, that's it. I mean, you talked about the Giovanni, and the Giovanni eventually figured out how to get around that to an extent, but there is no life after death with a vampire. That's why it's called final death. You get nothing after that happens. So, shit, right?
Yes.
King Enoch just ruined all my plans. I love Monarch, right?
Yes.
He, the Eldest, runs so far north, he no longer knows where he is. He's looking around, he's in a mountain range, in what would eventually become Romania. You getting some Dracula vibes off of this?
A little bit.
Now we enter a new character. There are many lore characters in this, and typically I don't talk about lore characters unless I like them. This character I really like. You remember Demon the Fallen, right?
A little bit.
So the reason why the Tzimisce are so damn strong is because their entire clan was founded on a deal with the devil. It's not the Satan, but it's the closest we're going to get to it in terms of lore, World of Darkness. Introducing to the story, everybody who knows a little bit about the Tzimisce has been waiting for this. Kupala. Here's the picture.
What the fuck is that?
Zoom in on that.
Yo, what is that? Jesus.
That's a demon.
Jesus. It's a weird looking demon.
That's
Now the
Gnarla.
thing is,
Where's
Kupala
it
has some real world basis because this is a Slavic mother goddess. That's a she, by the way. You can definitely tell, right?
Yes. Clear as day.
And she's a Slavic neo-pagan goddess, IRL, but here she is a demon. And the whole shtick is that her, along with all the other Earthbound, tried to carve out their own little hell on Earth after being cast into hell. She ended up in a secret fight with the Lupines, something that the Shadow Lords and Silverfangs don't talk about because they got their asses beat against Kupala. I mean, that's an Earthbound demon. Torment 10, you can't fight that on even ground.
No.
So
No,
what they
you're-
did instead, they called Gaia and said, "We have a plan. Can you make some mountains for us?" Gaia said, "I'd be delighted to." They split the ground in Romania in two and created this massive country-spanning ravine that Kupala dropped into. And before Kupala could fly out, they quickly smashed that land together and formed the Carpathian Mountain,
Oh, neat.
thus burying Kupala beneath it. But the thing is, Earthbound Demon, she could eventually find a way out, but in the process of crawling, she figured out that I can't quite leave this land. The werewolves did something funny, Gaia did something funny. I'm now bound to the mountains. I can't actually leave the mountain range. But, you guys remember Fantasia, Night on Bald Mountain?
Yeah, it scared the hell out of me as a kid.
That's exactly what Kupala is. That's what she looks like, where the when she physically makes herself manifest, a peak of the mountain opens up and she comes out of it.
Oh.
In terms of size, she is half the size of a mountain.
That's terrifying. I think I'd be pretty freaked out if I saw that coming out of a mountain.
You can imagine what the eldest was thinking when all of a sudden he looked behind him and found out that the mountain was seemingly alive and looking at him.
Yeah.
But the eldest saw this as his greatest opportunity. He looked at Kupala and said, "I want to rule the world. And I know about demons. I learned about that in the first city. I know that you're pretty much screwed over. You're out of heaven. You can't go back to hell because there's nothing for you in hell. Let's pool forces. I know tons of magic. I can still use some of it. Let's pool resources and take over the world together." Kupala said, "Just sign your name on this contract." The eldest did it, and then behold, the process began. And with Kupala and her looking at this, the synthesis between Demon the Fallen and Werewolf the Apocalypse, it seems that demons, you would think they'd be of the worm, but no, demons are above the worm power. Individually, they can't do that much, but as a collective, they could kill the worm. Wrap your head around that for a minute, Kyle.
They're strong enough to, like, kill a full god.
Exactly. You could eventually kill the concept of death, and given that there is a type of demon that has full mastery over death, that is possible. They could eventually overcome the worm. And with her superiority over the worm, he starts teaching Tzimisce Voldunic sorcery. A very fun spin-off of thaumaturgy. It's basically thaumaturgy. Like, mechanically, it's the same, so we're not going to get into Voldunic sorcery today, but the way it's described in-game is that every power is based around the 4 elements: fire, water, earth, air. The Avatar: Last Airbender. And each one has a directly destructive effect whenever you cast Koldunic sorcery, which is what I use to say as evidence that this is a wormish spirit teaching you this. It says that in order to learn Koldunic sorcery, you need to bind yourself to a spirit, and then through the spirit, it helps you unlock the next stages in your sorcery. So it's pretty much making a deal with a tiny devil, where it teaches you spheres of magic at the accelerated cost of, I don't know, corrupting you to the worm and eventually driving you crazy. You wonder why the Tzimisce were evil? It's because they were evil from the start, because they were talking to the worm and to demons.
So yeah, they sort of brought that upon themselves.
Yeah.
You can't fret over every egg when you want to take over the world, right?
No, you can't.
Around this time that Tzimisce decides, I want to learn more about my power. I know that I can't go out in the sun. I'm not the first vampire to be sired. So he starts studying. He finds a guy called Deme. You spell it Demdemeh. He's African. So he plucks this guy up, embraces him, and says, go off into the woods. I want to see what I can do. And he lets him off into the woods. He starts studying him. Okay, cool. This is what he can do. He does a great job fighting werewolves. Let's get another guy. Actually, I need to talk to Kupala more. Let's get a guy to write down these notes for me. He looks over, finds a guy called Yorak, scoops him up, embraces him, and says, I want you to watch this guy, write down all these notes, study what being a vampire is like. I have better stuff to do. He goes off, and Yorak, you guys watch Lord of the Rings, you know the mouth of Sauron?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what he is. And in terms of what Yorak looks like, that's not too far off from a descriptor. And guess what? Tzimisce is very, very smart. He's got intelligence 6. Possibly 10 by this point. And he's sitting down and he writes and writes and writes. I'm not entirely sure how much papyrus paper he had at that time. I mean, you don't exactly have a wood chipper. And he starts writing all this stuff about vampires, and eventually he comes into a full understanding as to what his own powers are. And he looks over at Kupala and says, Koldunic sorcery, pretty cool, but I think we can do better than that. What you're doing, how are you doing that? Oh, you mean coming out of the mountain and being the mountain and really shaping my body? Yeah, that. I want that. And Kupala and the Eldest co-develop Vicissitude. We briefly mentioned just how crazy that power is. We're going to get into a deeper description with that later. And what else is around Romania, Kyle?
Not a traveling... Well, around Romania, it's in Eastern Europe, isn't it?
Werewolves.
Yes, whole lot of werewolves.
The Shadow Lords were getting their asses beat by the Tzimisce. The Eldest would just go outside at night, see all these werewolves, and say, could you please fuck off? And he just swipe the floor with these Shadow Lords. I mean, it was a clean sweep. You wonder why the Shadow Lords don't talk about this. It's because of how shameful this is.
Yeah, and then I wonder why Storm got the shit kicked out of him by Vigo.
I want to say that you've got no excuse, Shadow Lords, because the Silent Shredders took down Set, but given the power valley between Set and the Eldest, I can't get that mad about it.
No, that was not their fault.
I mean it when I say the Eldest is the strongest of the antediluvians. You can already tell just how strong he is already. Oh, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. We've only scratched the surface as to what he can do. So, the Eldest studies and figures out, hey, Kupala, I figured out how to get you out. It turns out your heart is stuck in the mountain. Here, let me get that out for you. He digs out Kupala's heart, which is this giant flower made out of fire that he just scoops up in his hand, sets outside, and Kupala says, oh, you're into the bargain. Great. And Kupala tries to leave, only to realize that Kupala still can't leave. By rules of Demon the Fallen, if a demon is in a certain spot for X amount of years, They are permanently bound to that land. You cannot leave it. So as it turns out, the eldest doesn't need to pay his end of the bargaining.
Oh.
Because now it's impossible for him to do it. This is where we get a little bit of the unreliable narrator. Did Tzimisce say that was the solution, and that was the solution, but it was too late? Or was Tzimisce, the eldest, holding back on Kupala, where he said, I'm not going to let you leave. You're too useful for my plans of world domination. I'm going to tell you I found a way for you to escape, and it's not actually the means of you escaping. I mean, what do you think about that?
Given the caliber of person that the eldest is and how intelligent he actually is, I can believe that maybe he, I believe that maybe he left out a couple of details.
After all, you gotta hustle the demon.
Absolutely. Like, hey, she made a deal with him. He fulfilled, quote unquote, with the largest quotes I can manage, the deal. But it turns out the deal didn't exactly solve her problem, but deal is a deal.
It's like selling your soul to a devil, but it turns out you already sold your soul to a different devil, so therefore you don't have to pay.
Well, no, and now you guys get to fight it to the death over, who has rights to my soul.
That's going to be a very fun legal battle, see you in court.
Yeah. You guys figure that out amongst yourself. I'm going to go keep living for another century.
And it's only now that the Great Deluge happens. How much did we talk about before this happened?
We talked about Enoch kidnapping this one guy who was a mage. He runs the hell away from Enoch, finds a demon in a mountain who starts to teach him Goldenic sorcery. He starts siring people to figure out how it works, goes back to the demon, learns Vicissitude, upholds his end of the bargain. Turns out the bargain didn't work. All the while, they're beating the shit out of the Shadow Lords. So,
and only now does the Great Deluge happen. So, the Carpathian Mountains become the Carpathian Islands. Hello, we've gone from being mountaineers to being tropical. Very fun, right? And that lasts for about 40 days and 40 nights of me just having islands, and there's all these Gangrel and Nosferatu slamming onto my damn mountain. Tzimisce just snatches them up out of the mountain, because by this point he's been amassing biomass. He's now in the mountains with Kupala, intermingling with the biomass, and snatching them from the mountain, dragging them underground. You never see them again. You played System Shock 2. You remember the Manny?
Yes, the Manny from System Shock 2.
By this point in the story, Tzimisce already looks like that.
Good lord.
And by diabolizing all these different Gangrel and Nosferatu, he starts accumulating this massive amount of biomass. And of course, he starts learning animalism, protean, obfuscate, potence from stealing these powers. He already had, I think it's animalism, but he also has dominate at this point. But keep in mind, all of his disciplines are directly in relation to control. The guy controls everything. And after the water finally goes away, head out, a curse is finally done, he looks around, and he says, something's going on in the Middle East? What's that over there? Tzimisce walks over, we're going to call him Tzimisce for the sake of the story, from this point forward, walks over to the south and finds that Salat is this nerd who's been talking with Cain, and has been talking with these guys, Nurgle, Shaitan, and Moloch. And Tzimisce says, Salat, I've been holding back on you guys. Demons. I can call demons. Would you like to talk to some demons? And he said, hell yeah, dude. And then Tzimisce, even though he did not sire the Bali, corrupted the Bali and introduced them to the idea of demon worship.
Excellent.
So if you want to know who started the Bali Wars, it was him.
Thank you, Tzimisce. Very cool.
It did get a lot of clans up and going, and of course it caused the Bali Wars, and Salat fell into depression and then went off to China, and then the Assamites had their moment in the sun, and everything was all fine and good, but somebody figured out what Samael. When we talked about him before, he was on his way to support Salat in the Second Bali War. In this story, Samael figures out that it was Tzimisce who did the thing, and goes after Tzimisce in the mountains. Tzimisce figures out he's doing this and says, go ahead, Let him come. He forms a little cave for himself, makes a throne, sits down in that throne, legs crossed, waiting for Samael to come in. When Samael does, he's coming in with a sword that's made out of fire, thanks to his valor and proficiency. And Samael is fighting elders. Some of these vampires Tzimisce sired before the flood, so technically other antediluvians. And Samael wins the fight against them. They're about to send more guys before Tzimisce decides, no, you've impressed me. He gets up out of the throne, forges a sword out of his own bone, and then aims it at Samael and says, duel me. With that, you see the greatest off-screen fight in your entire life, as Samael and Tzimisce have this massive duel. The ultimate good versus the ultimate evil, and it ends with Samael taking his fire sword and plunging it into the Eldest's chest, mortally wounding him. He's about to do it. He's about to kill the Eldest. But, nope. That's when all the other Tzimisce, against the Eldest's wishes, jump in, attack, and kill Samael. Great, right? He almost did it. He was that close to saving the world.
Yeah. And he should have.
And while the Eldest is on the ground, his body beginning to fade away from the Valorant sword, one of his kids, Lugoj, Lugoj is how you spell his name, looked at him and thought, Diablerie. What if I diablerize the Eldest? I'm about to score the power jackpot. Lugoj runs over, scoops up Tzimisce, and starts draining his blood. And Tzimisce lets him do it. And just when he finishes Diablerie, snap, Lugoj is gone. Tzimisce is inhabiting his body. Behold, you thought you could diablerize me? I freely control flesh. While you were diablerizing me, I went into your cells, recoded your DNA to make you me, and I erased you from existence through genetic code. You can't beat this guy, dude.
No, he's a dick.
And of course, Tzimisce says, well, let them think I'm dead. Let them think that I've been diablerized and I'm gone. He masquerades as Lugoj for the rest of the story. He also has another vampire on this time, Drakon. Keep that name in mind. And he's sitting over in his base in the Carpathian Mountains, in Lugoj's body, looking over at Hellenistic Greece and says, this is all pretty cool, pretty fine and dandy. I'll look at you, the Vintru, and the Toreador, and the Malkavians, thinking you're so smart, and you're so clever for inventing this society. Look at you. You're adorable. And then he just claps his hands and sends his entire Tzimisce army over to the region to destabilize it. And this is what the Tzimisce do. You want a country destabilized? Call them the Tzimisce because they're your guys. They don't wear suits, they don't wear matching ties, but they're sure a lot better than the FBI.
Yeah. I mean, they're given what they can do. That does not surprise me.
And Grimm, I hate to tell you this, but the Tzimisce take credit for the Gehenna taking down Rome. They said the only reason why the Gehenna took down Rome is because the Tzimisce were leading them along and led them to the exact spots that they needed to go in order to fight the fight and then eventually destabilize and take over Rome. They only accomplished that because of the invisible guiding hand of the Tzimisce from words.
The second closest thing to Worm leading the Geta Fenris? Yeah, I highly fucking doubt that.
Control opposition, that's what you've always been.
We are not the Worm's pawns.
I sense that Grimm has formed a new vendetta.
We could have like the whole like puppet strings, like all the marionettes are controlling each other, and this meter are at the very top.
Yep.
It can't be any worse than the fucking changelings or the Fae people telling Grimm that he's not capable of taking on Vigo.
That's true.
You're not strong.
Not strong enough.
Well, we need to be able to survive 2 punches instead of 1.
Yeah.
Next up, the invention of the term of the Voivode. Tzimisce decides that he's getting bored sitting in his cave all day. So he looks over at Yorick and says, we're going to call this man the Voivode. This is your landlord. You pay you're going to pay Yorick money to live here, and then Yorick is going to pay me, and then that's how we're going to keep this going. He pretty much invents the concept of land ownership. It's what he does.
He makes feudalism.
And behold, you want to know why the Tzimisce got all this money? It's because of the shakedowns and the protection money that you were paying to the Tzimisce so you could live in East Europe. Behold, that's how it got started. You want to know why the Bravnists were talking about all the money that the Tzimisce had? This is how they got it. Now, what happens next? We have a character enter the story. Shagra. It is around 375 AD. You've got the formation of what would eventually become Ukraine, and the Tzimisce are having a fun time there, but they say, we want to try actually running a country. But every king needs a castle. You need to invent something fun. Tzimisce goes over, looks to Kupala and says, I want a cathedral. Can you make that? And Kupala says, say no more. And with that, the Cathedral of Flesh is made. An entire underground cathedral made from human flesh.
That sounds terrifying.
And the flesh is still alive. The entirety of the cathedral is one living organism that is fed and kept alive by Kupala and fun, right?
Yeah, fuck.
Now, you were wondering how the concept of Tzimisce furniture got started. That's how. They decided that they were going to take the people that they killed and keep them alive. And they were going to turn them into tables, into chairs, into coats, into the leather cover of my sofa. And, behold, this is some real Leatherface kind of shit here.
Yeah, it is. And they cut off their faces and wear them as masks.
What would you like to be turned into, Kyle?
A guitar.
Well, I don't feel good bringing up the guy's name, but was it Ed Gein who did that?
I don't remember.
I think that was his name.
I don't know. I didn't hear that story.
So the reason why I bring up Shagra is that he is an important guy because he is a small leader around the land of the Rus around Ukraine. They're looking at Shagra and Tzimisce saying, I am going to draw a name out of a hat that I'm going to form through interviews with all my kids. We are going to see who will embrace Shagra. Oh, sorry, Shagra's a woman. My mistake. So they're looking at her, and Tzimisce's thinking, who will be the guy to do it? And Tzimisce puts his finger at a guy named Triglav. You spell it Triglav, who has a really fun picture, by the way. Kyle, I'm going to need you to zoom in on this one.
Yes.
He's got the word try in his name. Why do you think he's got that in it? I think he's got that in his name.
Oh, I have no idea. Do regale me as to why.
I will call myself Triglav because I have 1, 2, 3
three
heads.
Good lord.
Amazing.
And 6
There was
arms. He said Vishnu wasn't enough.
There's another guy, Lambak, who gets super butthurt that Tzimisce decided to pick Triglav instead of him to embrace Shagra. He nurses this grudge for the rest of his life and says that Tzimisce has turned his back on him. Like, I'm trying to think of like a good example. Like, a king trying to select which of his sons is going to become king next and getting glossed over. He's like Scar from The Lion King in a way. So, you have Shagra, who, of course, with the new Tzimisce power and Tzimisce contacts and influence, starts conquering the land of the Rus. And behold, we now have all these different misplaced Huns and this massive empire beginning to form that would eventually collapse when Shagra dies, but not to worry. You just laid out the foundation for the Ottoman Empire. So we're down to the end, right?
Yeah, more or less.
And of course, they mentioned that they had a refugee crisis when the Mongol horde eventually collapsed, and you had all these misplaced Mongols, and they had spend so many different years killing every last one of them to get them out of their land.
Yeah, took them a little bit.
Something to bring up about the Tzimisce, we can do this now while I'm reading about this next part. This is an openly racist clan. No, this is not hyperbole at all. they use words in this book. They drop the N-bomb with the R at the end of it.
Good. Look, how many times?
Twice.
Oh, okay. So it's not like Tarantino levels of it, but
Yeah,
it's there.
but these guys are explicitly stated to hate black people. They hate Asians. They hate Native Americans. They hate anyone that isn't white, and they don't embrace anyone who isn't white. Now, keep this in mind when we get to the 1920s. That's down the road. So,
I sense great danger.
Once again, these guys are okay. The Gaffiners aren't.
I don't know either.
All right, next up. You've got some fun stuff going on around this time. I wish I could show you the pictures I'm looking at, but I don't think any of these are appropriate for the show. I was telling you before.
We could
show us, but you can't show the audience.
Yeah, we can't show you because we've got like Tzimisce women with rib teeth coming out of their pussies, eating guys' dicks off of their bodies. In pictures.
That's kind of metal as fuck.
Yeah.
It's like a Cannibal Corpse album.
You've got Dracula. We could talk about Dracula now. Take a wild guess what clan this guy's
from. Dracula?
I thought he was Tzimisce.
This clan, yes. And there is this massive debate. Who's going to get Dracula? Who's going to get Dracula? We see this guy in Wallachia. He looks perfect. We gotta get this guy on board. And I typically add this in my stories, or this isn't canon, but I say it is. I say Dracula was Shellord kinfolk because that just makes sense, because the Shellords trust Dracula, and with the Shellord's information network, if you knew the Tzimisce wanted this guy, you should have killed him. I don't care if he was keeping your kinfolk safe. You should have gotten the fuck out of East Europe if you hate it so bad there. But I digress. As it turns out, Dracula makes the decision for you. He takes a vampire, along with Lambach. He imprisons both of them and drags them back to his castle. He forces one of the vampires to embrace him. And then when he comes back, diabolizes the vampire that embraced him and manages to steal all of his powers because he's that badass. And then with Lambach, he says, turn around, there's the door, go on your way. Boss move right there, right?
Yeah, Dracula turns around and he goes, I'm moving different. This shit ain't nothing to me, man. I'm a dog. I'm biting the fart bubbles in the bath. We smoking symbiote.
The thing is that Dracula's still alive in the World of Darkness. And he had the run-in with Nicholas Van Helsing. And of course you had the collapse of of Transylvania, and he's not king anymore. And we're not going to get into too much detail with Dracula because this is well-known European history. You can look this shit up yourself. But he escapes, and he goes into hiding. He's still Dracula, but off in the distance, hiding. And he eventually comes across a guy called Bram Stoker, and masquerades as a dude and says, "Hey, I got this awesome story to tell you." And he tricks Bram Stoker into writing an autobiography about himself, and that becomes a bestseller, leading people to go to Transylvania, where he's still hiding out, with Dracula taking the people that are tourists, turning them into Tzimisce or furniture or into biomass, and eventually starts rebuilding a shadow government beneath Romania.
That
fun, right?
That's fucked up, but actually kind of genius.
Right?
Yeah, Dracula's a very smart man. You wonder why this guy was the nemesis of the Shadow Lords for years.
Well, yeah, because he did everything the Shadow Lords did, but way better.
And you remember the Tremere, right?
Oh yeah, those assholes.
Yeah, those assholes, Diablo Salat, who we weren't done playing with yet. Remember the Tzimisce toying with Clan Salubri. They invite them to the house, show them all their gore, and then send them off on their way. They weren't done playing with the Salubri. So when the Tremere diabolize them and start genociding the clan, they were already pissed off at the Tremere for kidnapping their elders and using them in black magic rituals. They're incredibly pissed off now because the Tremere are actually making progress in the war against them. So the Tzimisce start nutting up and say, we need to invent a new way of creating ghouls to fight the Tremere. So they invent the Vodzhd. Vodzhd. You remember Freddy in
What
our last
happened to
episode, the Live
Freddy?
Play was turned into one of these.
Oh, they're scary, aren't they?
Now we. I'm having trouble containing my excitement.
Payments I'm
So
free.
I can't show you some pictures in this book, but I can show you the Vodzhd. If it's safe enough to go up on the wiki, I'm going to say it's safe enough to post in the for the show. So small image dump coming your way. One. Put these up as I'm posting them.
Yep.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Two. That guy.
Good lord.
More
That's
abstract.
not that bad either.
3.
That's just horrifying.
4. This is very like H.R. Geiger-like in a way, like very surreal when you look at these guys.
Very much so. It looks like the Flood.
Oh,
Kind
yeah,
of,
exactly. 5. And let's see, one more. 6. Now you might be wondering, what are these guys supposed to do? This is a minimum of 13 different people, all fused to a single body, and they all share an amalgamated mind and are pumped full of disciplines, and then are thrown at the Tremere as soldiers. Imagine fighting this.
Good lord.
I
Well,
can-
I mean,
And-
you're going to have next Werewolf game. Ragnar and Bacchus probably will have to.
Now, it's funny because you brought up the Flood. Would you like to know what Tzimisce looks like now?
Imagine a lot like exactly, just like the Grave
Yeah.
Mind.
He looks like that now.
Yes, just that picture from Halo 2.
Yeah. And you want to know how big he is?
About as big, I
fucking
imagine.
Massive.
So keep in mind, this guy's been diabolizing people since the year 10,000.
Yeah.
I see. This looks like a good graph to send you. Okay. This is how big his body is.
The entire fucking mountain range.
Yes.
Good lord.
He has diabolized and formed biomass to the point where he is the Carpathian Mountains by this point. He's interwoven himself with Kupala's body and is sitting beneath the earth. Now, you may be wondering, well, how's that possible? I thought all the antediluvians went to torpor at Tzimisce. Remember that correspondence and matter and life sphere that he had?
Yes.
He uses those along with the body of Lugoj to get around torpor. At any point, Tzimisce can possess one of his own children, anyone that shares blood with him. This includes Caitiff and Thinbloods, and will possess them. And using that, he possesses them, brings them back to the mountains, uses them in with his body, and starts forming the biomass to become the Carpathian Mountains. He's the only antediluvian, besides, well, he's cheating, but it's Augustus Giovanni, that's up and moving around.
And Giovanni isn't like a tenth as powerful as him.
No. Grim could beat a fight.
Could?
Yes.
Could? You mean will?
You
And
need to roll first initiative.
Side quest
Altogether.
added for Grim.
Prove biggest flex by killing Augustus Giovanni.
Okay,
my
so let's
first
speaking
antediluvian
go down
kill.
the to-do list for our game. We gotta prove Chico's innocence. We gotta find what Felix was up to. Keep the
Kill
Rat King
Giovanni.
from rebelling. Save the world from Malkav. And for kicks as a side quest, Grim needs to go kill Augustus Giovanni.
You guys want to go to
Just for
Italy?
laughs. Just for the lol.
Yep.
And we get to introduce Grim to the idea of al dente pasta.
Yes.
It's true.
Now remember, you don't eat this with a spoon, Grim. That's a myth.
Well, no,
You eat it with a
technically the
knife.
proper way to do it is you take your fork and you get some of your pasta on the bottom rung of the fork, and then you use the spoon as sort of a holder to twirl the pasta around. That's the proper
There you
way
go.
to eat pasta.
Guys, this is Grim we're talking about. He's going to be eating it out of a bowl.
You already eat pasta out of a bowl.
Now, you may be wondering, what have the Tzimisce built? Nothing. This is the one and only vampire clan that has built nothing through history.
Well,
not
no,
true.
they built the
No,
big
everything we
thing of
talked
bones
about-
under it.
That's destruction that they were doing. Tzimisce only builds to benefit himself. He's not actually making countries that are built to last. He just wants control. He just wants biomass. He wants to control the world. He's not actually contributing to anybody. He doesn't care about his own kids. He doesn't care about the state of the world. He doesn't care about any of that. He's just serving himself. Which is why I say
cathedral out of living people. Didn't he?
Yes,
or
out
is
of
that
living
just
people
his
that
children?
that he kidnapped people and built a cathedral of them, yes.
Yeah, okay.
So this is why I say that Tzimisce is more evil than Set. Because at least Set thought he was doing the right thing. He thought he was fighting the worm. Tzimisce only ever cared about himself.
Yes.
And
Just
there's a guy who
selfish
agrees
evil
with me.
bastard.
This guy who agrees with me in the story, Lambach. You remember him? He comes back with a vengeance. He has been studying magic, been sitting around for years, and the Inquisition comes around. These guys in white robes and red robes are going around with swords, smiting different vampires in their crypts during day sleep, and are fighting them toe-to-toe and are winning. You thought the Tremere were proving to be an issue? No. The Inquisition is so much worse. And Lambach, in the confusion and the chaos, says, now's the perfect time for me to get one up on the Eldest. He forms a massive spell where he's been learning magic for millennia. And with one big damn spell, shatters the blood bonds. You can no longer form a blood bond as immediate. Every bond between sire and kindred and child breaks overnight. Everyone's free. And while Tzimisce can still possess them, nobody has to listen to their sires anymore, resulting in all the Tzimisce running for the hills, running around the hills, over the hills, and across the entire planet. You've let the dogs out, and there's no way to put them back.
Yup. Good luck controlling that, fuck boy.
And this is where the divide between Old Clan and Tzimisce are a thing. You have Old Clan Tzimisce, who are, of course, these guys are old as balls. Just, we described like Vorak and Dedeme. These guys were sired around the year 10,000 BC. When we talk about Old Clan Tzimisce, we mean it. And they hate the newer generation of Tzimisce. They say you're just a bunch of degenerates. We're going around. We had a philosophy here. We had a demon goddess that we were worshiping, and we were going to take over the world and control everything. And what are you doing? You're going around destabilizing East Europe. That's not... you're an idiot for doing that. Look how much better I am. I'm the baby boomer of all the vampires, and I got the 9-bedroom apartment, the 9-bedroom house on the beach. Yeah, I'm going to look at you in your apartment, look at you eating ramen noodles and shitting yourself, and Christmas will be celebrated at my house this year, as it is every year.
There's a lot of built-up rage in all that, I imagine. Good Lord.
So, the young Tzimisce decide, fuck old Tzimisce, we're done listening to you, old man. We're going to go off, and they look around, let's see, who are these guys? They look at this vampire clan that has successfully infiltrated the Catholic La Sombra, and they look at them and say, well, you're not pussies like the Venture are, and you're not sluts like the Toreador, and you're not stupid like the Malkavians. Kind of like you. You have this whole shtick where you say that you're the evil Black Angels of God, or you are the angels of God, in a good way, and then you're here to smite people who are doing evil. Kind of like you. You want to team up, and La Sombra say, that's our ticket. That's our ticket to kingship. We are losing the church. We're going to get back the church with the Tzimisce. They team up, and the Sabbat, as we know it, begins to form. But it's not the Sabbat yet. It's known as the Anarch movement. Remember when we did this La Sombra episode? We had Moncado, who diabolized, quote unquote, La Sombra, and in the process of doing so, broke the blood bonds within the La Sombra. That's two clans that no longer have blood bonds. So both of them team up and say, we're going to go across the entirety of Europe, and we're going to raise hell. We're just going to do whatever we want when we want it, and it's going to be great. Then you've got Tzimisce and La Sombra, who are going into villages, like two vampires, and they're raising entire towns, just the two of them. The Sombra come out with a bunch of people absorbed into their black shadows. The Tzimisce come out with a bunch of people absorbed into their biomass, and everyone is happy, right?
Oh, the
Well, does
Lasabra
that not
and Tzimisce.
breach? Does that not breach the
The veil?
masquerade?
There's no masquerade
The veil.
to breach if there's nobody alive to see you breach it anymore.
So they did the stealth mission thing
I
of
see.
this it's a stealth mission if nobody's alive to see you.
Exactly, that's what they
Yeah.
start doing. Which is what convinces the Ventru and the Tremere and the Toreador to form the Camarilla with the Convention of Thorns. We did this out of necessity because the Tzimisce and La Sombra were about to destroy everything. And Tzimisce and La Sombra look and say, well, we can do that. We're going to form our own Camarilla, and we're going to call it the Sabbat. It's going to be an ironic name based off of the word sabbatical. And this is what we are now. And behold, we don't need you. This is the La Sombra talking. We don't need you. I'm going to conquer the world with only one vampire clan. You need 6. And Tzimisce, what are you doing over there? Oh, I'm just over in Italy, making people into spaghetti. We were supposed to form a kingdom here. You didn't leave anybody alive to embrace? No. I supposed to? And it's around this time that the La Sombra began to realize that maybe it was a massive mistake to team up with this.
Yeah, it was quite. See, La Sombra was all confident, like fucking like Omni-Man, just looking at the Venture, going, "Look what they need to replicate a fraction of our power. 6 clans, we only have 2." And then you're like, "Oh fuck, this guy's an idiot, isn't he?"
Because as it turns out, the Tzimisce don't give a fuck about controlling the world. The young ones, the ones that you joined up with to form the Sabbat, they only want to kill stuff. They just want to cause destruction because they think it's funny. You can't have a kingdom if there is no land and there's no people to rule over. The La Sombra begin to realize that this is a massive mistake. They're wondering whether or not it's too late to say sorry to the Ventru and join the Camarilla, and it turns out it is too late, and now we're stuck with the Sabbat. This is our legacy, right? Great. We're stuck with a moron that we can't stop being friends with because I'm going to get killed if I break things off with him. I can't say anything to him because he's going to kill me, and this is my life now.
Yeah, it kind of fucked themselves, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing wrong with the Sabbat. Come on.
You made a short-term decision, and it shot you in the foot. Now, here's the thing. La Sombra, the Antediluvian, is looking over, and he's saying, my agents go out, figure out what this Antediluvian of the Tzimisce looks like. And then he learns what Tzimisce, the Eldest, is. And then La Sombra has this existential moment where he's on the shore of Spain. And he starts having like the whole, like, I'm just kin, anywhere else I'd be a 10. Is it my destiny to live a life of darkness and fragility? Yes, it is. And then he just gives up and walks into the ocean to die.
Wow.
But as it turns out, La Sombra, you can't die. You're immortal. You've used obtenebration so much. Your body is currently constantly coated in shadows that block sunlight. You can't die in the sun. So he's sitting in the mid-ocean ridge, in the magma, trying to die, and it will never happen.
See, now I just feel bad for the poor guy. I mean, like, we've been over to La Sombra. The La Sombra are fucking terrible people as well, but good lord.
At least the La Sombra will keep you alive, as they'll be your king. And yeah, life is gonna suck, but you're still alive. Tzimisce just kill you.
No, they'll more like absorb you and turn you into furniture, and you got to live that way for eternity.
Yeah.
Pray
exactly.
they don't take you alive. Taking your gun and putting it beneath your chin is a better alternative to being captured by the Tzimisce.
Yeah, Freddy didn't know that. Now he's learning.
And it's around this time where we can kind of sort of stop or slow down with the Tzimisce history because they stopped building entirely. They're not even pretending to make progress anymore. The old Clan Tzimisce go off to form the Tamahera, a group so confusing I can't really tell you what they do. What I think they want is that they want to end the world by a Tzimisce antediluvian induced apocalypse. But they're not going to do that because the Tzimisce's not ready to end the world yet. The Eldest still has some game to play. And La Sombra was the other choice, but La Sombra's in the Mid-Ocean Ridge, and he's not coming out. So, yeah, the old Clan Tzimisce just spin their wheels for the rest of the history through the story. We can safely just remove them from the story by this point.
Yeah.
And what goes on? America, right?
Yeah. Big whole new land full of people and stuff.
And the Tzimisce say, now's a great time to broaden our horizons and ruin the lives of an entirely different race. They start going over to America, but then they realize, I can't sleep. I can't day sleep. What's going on? They get up and they think, hey, man, do we have a clan curse? Is that what's going on? Are we cursed? What's the curse? Because Tzimisce made the deal with Kupala. As it turns out, Kupala's curse is also our curse, meaning we can't sleep if we're not next to land that's not our homeland or land that was important to us. And they just look and say, shit. So they think, nope, we got a plan. They go over, get 2 shovels worth of dirt, put it in a jar, and then carry that jar with them. And then they're able to sleep as long as they have that jar with them. And behold, the practice of carrying a jar of dirt with you wherever you go begins. Plan.
So the Eldest was lying to the demon.
Right?
Oh, yeah, fuck it.
Yeah, that's it. That actually is what those Tzimisce are doing.
What happens if the jar of dirt breaks? They just gotta scoop some of it back into a cup?
Yeah, you gotta scoop it back in because you can't go to sleep without it.
Yes,
that's what the Tzimisce are doing. They're like showing their dirt jars to the Ventru and Tremere. They're asking, well, how are you in America? And they say, this is how. And yeah, the little silly moment in the story, but that begins the story. And do you know who the Tzimisce go after?
I don't know if they're there. The
Croatan? White supremacy.
Yes.
So these guys spend the entirety of their time in America committing hate crimes. They fucking hate Native Americans. They are legit racist, and they go around and they say, let's make the lives of all these natives miserable. So they go out and just do the most fucked up shit I can't even describe to the Native Americans during this part.
We'll cover it better when we get to the torture section of the episode.
You want to talk about genocide, dude.
The Tzimisce don't even do it for any calculated reason. They do it because it's funny.
And yet Tenna and the Wendigo have a very good reason to hate the Tzimisce now.
Yes.
And okay, so now you've been infected with Tzimisce. You can't get rid of them. They're now stuck in America. But thankfully, during the Civil War, a lot of them get identified because who owns the slaves? Who's been kidnapping my slaves and turning them into monsters? You. And so a bunch of Tzimisce died during the Civil War, but no, it's not enough. They're still around.
I mean, they gave it a best shot.
It's like a dark humor moment. Like, you go into a guy's plantation, you steal all of his slaves, and then you make a monster out of it.
And he gets mad, so he gets all of his buddies to go over there and, just fucking hunt you down. Thus, the IAA was founded. And
along the lines, you start having, let's see, what year is this? The 20th century. And, what's going on in Russia over there? Looks like they're having a revolution. Funny, can we join in too? They go over to Russia, they look around and say, oh yeah, the Russian Revolution, we're going to have a great time. Oh, no, we're not. The Bruja are here. Never mind, we can't stand the Bruja. And they all get up and turn around and leave the Russian Revolution and let the Bruja handle it themselves. Because the Bruja are just insufferable. You try talking to these guys.
I don't know. One of the very few friends I've got is a Bruja, and I get along quite well with him.
So instead, they go to Germany, and they start going to these different classes where it's called eugenics. I wonder what they teach there. They start going and they say, eugenics. We can make the eugenics. I mean, we have vicissitude. We can make ourselves into beautiful, super strong Chad Sigma males, and we can just become the Giga Chad through vicissitude. And I say, hey, we're all on board with this. So they start forming. This isn't like in the book, but pretty much like plastic surgery conventions where they start getting neonates, like people are going to put into the Tzimisce, and they give them plastic surgery to become the Giga Chads before they embrace them.
That's even more fucked up.
And it's around this time where what happens next? Holocaust.
Yeah.
And Joseph Mengele goes to Tzimisce. Yeah, the actual angel of death. He was a Tzimisce.
Really?
That does not surprise me in the slightest.
Along with that, while this is going on, you have the 1920s, 1940s, where the Tzimisce are saying, "What the fuck is that sound?" They look over, they see just black people minding their own business, making jazz music, and they say, "Man, fuck that shit." So what they do is that they take a bunch of people in Harlem, embrace them out of spite, and then start setting them on each other and start creating gang wars in Harlem for the sake of it. And they start mocking them as they're doing it, saying, "Oh, look at this! Is what this is what this race is only good for." When you're the guys who fucking started the race war that you're making fun of.
Yeah, because like we said, the Tzimisce are pro-genocide.
And speaking of, the KKK had Tzimisce in it. They start funding money to the KKK and will sell out the locations of black people for them to lynch. And they're over there with the cross burning, filming it with their photographic memories, and they think it's the most funny shit they've seen in their lives, seeing people do this to each other. And what happens next? The Great Depression. Time to get involved in the mafia, time to start killing people for fun. The whole Valentine's Day massacre, we can do that, but we can just beat them to death with our bare hands instead. World War II is happening. All right, now we can invade Poland and do the most fucked up shit we can think of in Poland. And they join concentration camps, and they have a great time in the camps. They get positions as Gestapo, and yeah, it's like a loop of like a few anti-Semitic comments later. Keep in mind, it's the character saying this, not the author. Keep that off your lips.
Yeah, don't want none of that.
So that whole like eugenics shit, like the whole anti-Semitism, that takes off full blast, and they say it was the funniest shit we've ever seen in our lives. Throwing people into furnaces and gas chambers and hearing the screams they make.
Tzimisce aren't good people. You can play as the Tzimisce.
But here's the thing, it gets worse. Because when they invade Russia, they're with the Nazis invading Russia, and then Stalingrad happens, and then they start realizing, oh, it looks like the Nazis are about to lose. They defect to Soviet Russia and fight with the Russians instead. And then after that happens, they don't join the KGB, but they start kissing up to the Shadow Lords that run the KGB, not knowing that they're Shadow Lords in the KGB, as we described in the Shadow Lords episode.
Can they not smell them?
I guess not. or I guess it was like the Shadow Lords saying, this clan has been giving us issues for years. It's coming to us for jobs and tasks. We're going to control the Tzimisce all we can, but it proves to be a mistake, because what do the Tzimisce do? They start burning churches with people inside of them. They go into farms, brutally beat the landowners to death, and then seize the farm for Soviet Russia. All the atrocities that the Soviet Union was known for, that was them. They said 10% of Russia's population was kept in gulags, and the Tzimisce would willingly sneak into the gulags just to cause massacre. On people, right?
Yeah.
And
Samuel should have swung once more just to make sure.
And really, it just goes off from there, because they join GRU, and that whole we're going to intentionally inject our people with Ebola virus and syphilis to see what happens. They do that. So think of any Black Ops Soviet Union program, and Tzimisce got involved with it. And when the Tzimisce were discovered, they were ordered. Their hits were ordered by the Shadow Lords, and they were killed, but dealt damage is done. And Tzimisce can just make another one of himself. And behold, you just have atrocity on top of atrocity. And the Tzimisce themselves, they're trying to outdo themselves. They're preparing for something worse than the Holocaust, worse than Soviet Russia. And they're rubbing their hands together, getting ready for the day where they can just ruin as many lives as possible. And that's the history.
I need to take a shower after that. Jesus.
But hold on a minute. There's two more stories.
Oh,
you remember? You remember Dideme? He went to Africa, and we never really got that much of Africa because Ebony Kingdom, for Werewolf, Vampire never really took off because White Wolf was going bankrupt as they were making those books. So they're in Africa, and not that much has changed. They're doing what the Tzimisce typically do, but in Africa. And they say, I will form a cult in my name. I will begin a blood cult. Any sort of report you hear of cannibalism or blood drinking that takes place in Africa, the Tzimisce take credit for that.
As they do.
We taught people how to eat people, and we thought it was funny. But don't worry, the Deme got overthrown by a guy called Sycorax, with no relationship to the Crow people, who comes in as the new God Queen. And she establishes a kingdom for herself in Yoruba after overthrowing him. And she is probably the most moral of the Tzimisce, given that she's actually focusing on the eyes on the prize, trying to form a shadow government. But the way she's doing it is that she's looking for Europeans that are still in Africa, and she's going after them. Said Portugal, she's as many Portuguese as she could find out of there. Let's see here. After the Portuguese kidnapped 1.3 million slaves from the Angolan coastline, Yoruba was in shambles. Slavers captured Sycorax's people by the village load. So yeah, this is like during the slave trade. You bet she got her pound of flesh after that happened.
Yes.
So you see what's going on today with West Africa and how every French corporation is realizing it's the end?
Yeah.
So here's a minute. Fuck French corporations. Keep saying that we're going to worship ESG and DEI. When no, you are in West Africa stealing the resources from these countries and using those for your own corporations. Just telling a country that you don't own your own trees or your own minerals, and you just reap the benefits of blood diamonds and different genocides that take place in the region.
And they're going to get what they fucking deserve.
You think American companies suck with unethical labor in South America. Now, French corporation is worse.
Oh, yeah. And they've been doing that shit for, fucking decades now. Like,
yeah,
since before the Cold War.
We're going to say we don't have slaves anymore, but really we do.
Like, watch the Siege of Jadotville. It talks about that.
And also, India. I have a little section on India here. And there's a comment in here saying, we don't know why the Tzimisce didn't give themselves multiple arms after Shiva, because the guy who narrates this book really likes Shiva. Well, so do I. But he says that's a missed opportunity for his clan that they never did that. It's just a little tangent.
There's still time.
But here's the thing. You remember the Ravnos having the holy war in India?
Yeah.
The clans flip. It is the Tzimisce is destabilizing in Asia, while the Ravnos destabilize in Europe and America. Well, the Tzimisce were already doing that, but the Ravnos had a better reputation.
Yes.
And it is thanks to the actions of the Tzimisce for selling out locations of the Ravnos to the Kuei Jin that the Kuei Jin came in with full anal force and killed all the Ravnos. That caused the summoning and awakening of the Ravnos Antediluvian, leading to the Week of Nightmares. So if you want a clan to blame for the Week of Nightmares, it was the Tzimisce.
Every terrible thing that seems to have happened in the world of darkness can be traced back to the Tzimisce, it seems.
It all traces back to them.
Wow, it's almost like you're all terrible, terrible people. How the fuck are you
So,
still alive?
once again, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, all the people that started in Harlem, killed them.
Of course,
After in the 1960s, when you had segregation reaching its head, the Tzimisce made an order saying we're going to have no black people in our tribe. They didn't use the term black people when they said that, and killed every single member of the Tzimisce that was black. Fun, right?
I'll need a drink.
This
I've
is
been
a
drinking
clan
today,
that
but
is.
I need another drink.
These guys are openly fucking racist, and you can play as them in 5th edition.
Yes, but
Well,
not the Get Famous for some reason.
Ham played devil's advocate and said a bot book, as it was written for 5th edition, was meant to be a guide for the storyteller for writing villains, but it's supposed to be something like Freak Legion. But there were still rules in the game where you could play as that's still a playable clan. That's on your little grid on your V5 sheet that comes to creating your character. Tzimisce is an option on that page, and you can play the Tzimisce in 5e. They want you to do it. This is the most popular vampire clan. After all the shit they've done, this is the clan that I see the most fan art of.
It's also
I'm not
because
shitting you when I say that.
It's also because the Tzimisce have some of the strongest abilities in the game.
Yeah, that also is a big factor in it as well.
Yeah.
So if you are a guy that says the Gehenna were this white supremacist LARPer tribe, and you say nothing about Tzimisce and Tremere, wholeheartedly fuck you, you piece of shit hypocrite.
Yeah. That doesn't mean you shouldn't play the Tzimisce. I mean, the Tzimisce are fun to play, but you got to be a terrible fucking person.
With Vampire, you can be anybody in that game. That is a game where anybody can be taken off the street and turned into a vampire.
Yes.
So you could be anybody.
It's called the World of Darkness.
And that means that, yes, Ego Corinth in our Werewolf Live play is the most humane, the least evil Tzimisce.
Yep. I mean,
Now,
he did have my son to grace on a silver platter. I'm going to have some words. I'm going to have to
give you context as to who Vigo was. That was a serial killer in the 60s who was embraced after his arrest by a corrupt police force, where he then spent the rest of our game took place in 2020, so 60 years, kidnapping people off the side of the road and turning them into soup.
He's an excellent cook.
Yes. And former best friend of Ryan's character, Sylvester.
Yep.
I rather
and then
like Sylvester.
they started butting heads when he chose what's his face? Malkav.
I mean, Vigo is a sycophant. I mean, he's a terrible person, but I really like the way that Ham plays him.
I know, he's so infectiously charismatic. You can't help but smile when he's on screen.
He's a lot like Frieza from Dragon Ball Z, I've kind of noticed.
Yeah.
Where when Ham plays him, he's very charismatic, and everything he says sounds charming until you look at what exactly Ham is saying.
Yeah, it's like when Freddy got revealed, he's like, "Oh, you made him a Vodzhd." I figured you'd make him bigger.
Yes. Well, he didn't shoot. Ragnar didn't shoot Freddy. I was going to have a trap for that.
Yeah. Well, no, they didn't have time, so that and Grisha was definitely the more pressing threat.
Now, the fun thing, Kyle, would you like to discuss the torture?
Yes. So the Tzimisce love, and they fucking love torture. Their favorite things to do is find out new and exciting ways on how to cause pain. So it's sort of like a 3-step process. First, as the book notes, psychological preparation is vital for any torture session, and Vicissitude helps a lot with this because it allows the Tzimisce in question to change themselves however they need in order to get the right emotional response from their victim. They can either make them someone beautiful, they can make them someone hideous, they can turn themselves and into looking like someone they love, in order to find out all of their greatest fears and all of their secrets, in order to inflict the maximum amount of psychological damage. Following that starts the actual physical part of it, in which Vicissitude allows the Tzimisce to become their own toolkit, so to speak, where they can implement their own weapons into their body in order to fit however they need to into the victim, again, to cause the maximum amount of pain while still being able to leave the victim alive. However, they have found that, and also animalism as well, allows them to summon a variety of creatures on command, be it spiders, snakes, crows to pick at decaying flesh, etc., etc. However, there is, as the book notes, a limit to physical torture, especially against vampires, and doubly especially against elders, who are incredibly experienced at shrugging off trauma, and even mortals themselves have a surprising amount of resilience. But there's also a level of emotional torture, which comprises the third part of this. Control over blood provides an incredible amount of psychological insight into a Tzimisce's torture victim. They have a lot of fun, forming and breaking blood bonds at will in order to hurt victims. They will forcibly bloodbound somebody and then painfully disfigure them. They will break a bond. If they have two victims in the same room, they will blood bond them together and then sever one of their bonds, leading to a great amount of, what was it? I think withdrawal would be the word for it.
Yes.
And then they can rebind the victim and then inflict physical or even further emotional pain on the victim. And they can start to toy with their emotions as well once they've made and severed the bond numerous occasions. However, there is a footnote, and I will read this verbatim. So, certain Tzimisce actually eschew supernatural means of torture, considering such practices effete. I think that's how it is. The Sabbat priest Stefan Kostas still speaks with great pride of how he extracted vital military information from a gangrel archon, using nothing but a $50 disposable razor blade, 3 needles, a pack of Holiday Inn matches, a rubber tube, and a gallon of Clorox. They're creative sons of bitches.
That's a story for the bar, right?
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
I just posted something in history pages for you. So you see that picture? It's kind of hard to tell what's going on in it, but you can see it.
Yes.
So that's from the George Joestar novel, and the Pillarmen from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure are almost a perfect example of old Clan Tzimisce. I don't know how Hirohiko Araki got his vampires so similar to the Tzimisce, but that's almost like a perfect reference. Like Dio Brando is such a good Tzimisce. But the thing is with the Pillarmen is that they had 100% control over their bodies and could shapeshift, where in order to dodge a cannibal, one of them broke his own spine so he could bend out of the way of the attack, only to pop his vertebrae right back into place. And that's level of freakiness. So in George Joestar, Lars gets complete control over other people's bodies. That's him sticking 2 fingers into the main character's brain, so he can start modifying his genetic code to make him 4 inches taller.
What? Why?
He's just having a conversation with them, and he says, "I'm sorry, I can't take you seriously because you're too short. Here, let me make you taller."
That seems like something a Tzimisce would do.
But on top of that, all that fun stuff we were talking about, but torture. What was the hardest scene to watch in GTA 5?
Likely Trevor torturing the guy.
Yeah, so you know just how uncomfortable that was, and just how poor of a method torture can be when it comes to extracting information. The Tzimisce can keep you alive at any point doing that. They just need to a vein in their arm, pluck that out of their arms, inject that into you, and then behold, you can't die. You're constantly kept alive off of Vitae blood. I mean, they can just shock you back to life whenever. This is why I say, do not let them take you alive, because you will not die until Tzimisce is done with you. And how long is that going to last?
Forever.
Well,
or until they
these
get
guys
bored.
don't age. At any point, they can just turn you into furniture and keep you alive that way. And then when they get bored of that, just shape you into something else.
It's odd that
Very fun.
it's odd that they're so close to demons because they're very wild mind.
So it's like, oh no, the wild is about evolution.
Right.
A worm is corruption. I remember Rage Across the Internet did a video on the wild that I highly disagree with, but they said at the end of it, they just brought up the point and then didn't elaborate on it, where the wild would be in relation to cancer. And you could not be more wrong saying that, because cancer is something that the worm gives you. I have Possessed and Freak Legion as my sources for that. The wild would give you an evolution. As in, what the wild does is a lot like Tzeentch, where you wake up one day, find out that the bottom half of you is a snake, and you've got 4 different bird wings coming out of your back, an elongated head with a beak, and now you have psychic communication with Elon Musk and General A. Mattis. And that's just what the wild does to you. It's improvement. That's what the wild can give you, along with the Weaver. The worm just destroys you, and that's what the Tzimisce do. This is a very wormish clan, but they have come to complete peace with the worm, because Ryan announced a moment at the Metamorphosis.
Yes. The Path of Metamorphosis.
Now this is fun. If you thought we were fucked up already, we're about to go to a whole nother level.
If I don't know which path Vigo took, but I'm pretty sure it would have been in Path of Metamorphosis.
He's close
Grisha.
to it. I think he's more on the path of Cathari, but we'll get to that in a minute.
So, do you want me to just read it off, or do you want me to talk about their sins and the ethics?
Read off what it is. I mean, we probably should send.
Should what?
Send this to Kyle. You read off the description of what this is.
All right. I'll read off the overview because it doesn't. Oh, yeah. No, it doesn't give me a description. So
here you go.
The Path of Metamorphosis is one of the most inhumane paths for its followers. The world is made up of evolutionary chains. Animals are below humans, who are below kindred. The metaphysical, arcane members of Clan Tzimisce follow this path since their settling within the lands around the Carpathian Mountains, which focuses on defining and attaining the state of being beyond the curse of vampirism. Citing their transformative use of vicissitude, these Tzimisce believe they have the potential to transcend the constraints of flesh. They believe that the next step is a state akin to apotheosis, which they call Azi-Dahaka.
Azi-Dahaka, which is the state of you becoming like Ahriman, who is the devil in Zoroastrianism. So you are becoming Satan by using this.
After the dragon of Persian mythology.
Exactly.
And they will do anything. I mean, anything to achieve it. It is a distant, lonely philosophy removed from any needs of other than the matter of sustenance. Followers should be heedless of others around them, existing only to satisfy their personal concerns until they achieve Azi-Dahaka. I'm pretty sure I said that right this time.
Yes.
Azi-Dahaka. Which will completely separate them from the rest of the world in a similar manner to an inverted nirvana. Metamorphosists often face a different problem from those who walk other paths. Rather than struggling to uphold the tenets of their path, metamorphosists struggle to discover just what those tenets actually are, each for themselves. Most followers of the path keep a journal of sorts, classically called the Vigarian Codex. No,
You're right.
Yep.
I was right. Oh, Jesus. That's the first. Which details their journey to metamorphosis. Codices of elder metamorphoses are highly prized by their young contemporaries. For most metamorphoses, physical change precedes spiritual change. Some believe, despite the obvious evidence of their undead existence, that no creature possesses a soul and that the curse of Cain represents the flesh run rampant.
Yes.
Flesh liberated from the obliterating cycle of life and death. Others hold that the soul is just the body summarized. As a result, the most prized the use of vicissitude or protein for shape-shifting powers these disciplines lend. Metamorphosists see potential in the undead form. They strengthen their bones to weather crushing blows or sharpen them into pikes for impaling enemies. They relocate their vital organs to make their digestion of blood more efficient. Others ignore the physical element and instead seek to exploit the peculiar nature of undeath. Some of such metamorphoses feed only on their fellow Canites, believing that an aversion to the mortal blood is a sign of metaphysical superiority. There are many approaches to Dahaka,
Ashitahaka.
Aji. I gotta remember that.
It,
Aji Dahaka.
it's Asian. Don't worry about it.
But ultimately, no one can say which road is more efficient. Metamorphoses are cold, utterly inhumane, and exactingly scientific. The concerns are metaphysical rather than ethical, and it is precisely this frame of mind that leads many to believe that metamorphoses have literally begun their transformation into something else. Some take this a step further by altering their flesh in various means until they no longer have a recognizable gender or look even remotely human. For this sake, many adopt the Sabbat, but pay merely lip services to the sect in order to continue their studies.
So you get what this is, right?
Yeah.
Become the devil. That's
Yeah.
what the point of this is. Become the devil.
Given that this started with a deal with a demon, that does not surprise me.
And you
Yeah.
see, why do the Faustian bargain when we can just make the demons ourselves?
Don't make the demons. You mean be the demons.
I'll need to make a deal with you. I'm going to become my own devil.
I'm going to make a new demon with blackjack and hookers.
Now,
Exactly.
this is where we bring in the other Tzimisce. This is a very fun character. Sasha Vika, who is the main character of the Tzimisce in 2nd edition, and is the narrator of both the modern day and I'm pretty sure the Dark Ages plan book. Now, in regards as to what Sasha looks like, this is the transformation. Posting in history pages. This is what he looked like at first. Pretty handsome guy, right? His name was Micah at the time. Okay, pretty nice and everything.
Mm-hmm.
This is what he looks like now.
Good lord. Why the corset, though? It's so scuffed.
He's
And-
definitely changed.
And one more. And further along the lines, now it looks like this. Yeah, you notice the pronoun change.
He looks
Sasha
like a
Vikos.
JoJo villain in this one.
It kind of does, but that's not leather clothing. That's his own skin.
Good
Interesting.
lord.
Yeah.
What's his stand name?
Sorry for misjittering you, Vikos. As it turns out, his pronouns are it and its. And this is in the book. because Sasha Vikos no longer considers itself to be human. It is a catastrophe that walks and breathes. That's what it
definitely
considers
is.
itself. Now, the story is that back when Sasha was Micah, this was a typical member of the Tzimisce who, went through all like the fun stuff and everything. Now, everything was all fun and dandy. You looked like you were just going to be another drop in the bucket. And Sasha Vikos had a lover within the Tzimisce where all was good, right? I mean, a vampire that knows how to love, they must have some humanity, right? But, as it turns out, that lover got possessed by the Tzimisce Antediluvian the night that Micah was going to lose his virginity. The eldest forced himself onto Sasha as a joke and forcibly impregnated a man with his own seed. He can do that. He can plant the egg and fertilize it himself into a human body.
That's kind of weird.
Now imagine what that birthing process looks like.
That's fucked.
Yeah.
So, after that happened, you notice that stomach? That's a scar. So, after, I'm not even sure what that is, because that's not even a ghoul, burst its way out of Sasha, it changed its identity and completely lost its mind. It is now I think it's a Regent Sabbat, which is, as no, I don't think that's quite it. I know the Camarilla term's a little bit better. Archbishop, that's what I'm thinking of. Archbishop. And it now exists as the leader of, I believe, looking at the page here, that it seems that Vikos is now in America. Right?
No, fuck that. I want that off of me continent. Matter of fact, I want it on a different fucking planet.
Yep, it is in Atlanta, Georgia, actually.
So it might have bumped into it.
Yeah. The ATL. Imagine, a racist vampire that's lost its damn mind in the ATL.
You know what? In Atlanta, that makes sense.
Yeah.
To be fair, it is Atlanta.
Yeah.
You got the most fucked up shit I've ever seen in my life.
We were actually talking about the game that I'm about to do, V20.
Yeah.
That Atlanta, Georgia was one of the options. It was like
That
New York,
is
Atlanta, or Chicago.
Firmly Sabbat territory.
Yes.
Look at that. Now, you may be wondering, well, how does Vicissitude work? Well, I'm glad you asked that. Kyle, can we please go over Vicissitude real quick?
Yes, Vicissitude. So to read from the page, Vicissitude is the signature power of the Tzimisce, and it is rarely shared outside of the clan, though it is known to some other Canaanites of the Sabbat. Similar to Protean in some ways, Vicissitude allows vampires to shape and sculpt flesh and bone. When a kindred uses Vicissitude to alter mortals, ghouls, and vampires of higher generation, the effects of the power are permanent. Vampires of equal or lower generation can choose to heal the effects of Vicissitude as though they were aggravated wounds. A wielder of Vicissitude can always reshape her own flesh. The wielder must establish skin-to-skin contact and must often manually sculpt the desired result for these powers to take effect. This also applies to the use of the power on oneself. Tzimisce skilled with Vicissitude are often inhumanly beautiful. Those less skilled are simply inhuman. There are rumors that Vicissitude is a disease rather than a normal discipline, but only the fiends know for sure, and they aren't talking. Quick note, Nosferatu always heal Vicissitude alterations, at least the ones that make them better looking. The ancient curse of the clan may not be circumvented through Vicissitude. The same applies to physical deformities of the Gangrel clan weakness. Okay, is there any particular powers, or should I just start from the top?
Just describe all the stuff you can do with it, because this is a power that is limited to the imagination of the player.
Yeah.
Scroll through this and look at these descriptions.
Yeah, so at the very start at level 1, you have malleable visage. You can change your own body, your height, your build, your voice, your facial features. You need to spend a blood point for every body part you need to change. Roll intelligence medicine to duplicate another person or voice. Requires perception and medicine. Roll at difficulty 8. 5 successes are required for a flawless copy. So you can quite literally clone somebody and have them walk around at rank 1. Fleshcraft. Similar to Malleable Visage, but allows the vampire to perform drastic, grotesque alterations. This is where you get all of the really fucked up things. Transform servitors into monstrous guards or better frightened foes. Only flesh may be transformed with this. You use a blood point, and you need to grapple the intended victim. The player of the flesh-crafting vampire needs to make dex and medicine. The difficulty is variable, 5 for a crude yank and tuck, 9 for very precise transformations. A vampire who wishes to increase another appearance trait does so, as described under Malleable Visage. Reducing the attribute is a lot easier because you just need to fuck it up. And then at rank 3, you get Bonecraft. This is where you get gnarly fuck shit. You can manipulate bone in the same manner as flesh. In conjunct with Fleshcraft, this enables Vicissitude practitioner to form a victim or themselves beyond any recognition. Also, it's used in conjunction with the flesh-shaping arts unless you want to inflict injury on the victim. That is literally force someone's bones out of their body. At rank 3. So the vampire needs to spend a blood point, make strength and medicine, difficulties 5 for quick, 9 for precise. Each success scored on the strength and medicine rolled up to difficulty 7 inflicts 1 health level of lethal damage, to the victim, as the bones rip and puncture slice their way out of the skin. Like I said, you can just pull shit out of their body. The Tzimisceans themselves may use the bones to form, spikes or talons or defensive quills. If bone spikes are used, the vampire takes 1 health level of lethal damage. In the case of quills, the subject takes a number of health levels equal to 5 minus the number of successes. A botch kills the subject or sends the vampire into torpor. That's fucked up. It's like, what was the name of that one guy that had the Kekkei Genkai from Naruto about bones?
It's Deidara.
No. Deidara used...
Oh, the curse mark people.
Yeah. I don't remember his name. I
know who you're talking about. It's the guy who almost killed Gaara by turning his arm to like a bone corkscrew.
Yes, that's the guy.
I know who you're talking about. I would have remembered him if he was used in more than
like 5 episodes. But he was but the fight between him and Drunken Fist Lee was awesome.
Yes.
that fight always goes hard. Anyway,
that I have that comic, by the way. I have that manga volume.
That's a good one.
The artwork is so much more disgusting than it is in the anime because you see the flesh peeling off the bone as he pulls it out.
Oh yeah. I've also got on to rank 4, horrid form. You can become just absolutely hideous. The vampire stature increases to a full 8 feet. The skin becomes greenish gray or grayish black. The arms become ape-like and ropey with ragged nails. The face warps into something nightmarish. And a row of spines sprout from the vertebrae. And the carapace exudes a foul-smelling grease. Costs 2 blood points, but all physical attributes increase by 3. All social rolls drop to 0, except when dealing with others in horrid form. However, a vampire in horrid form who is trying to intimidate someone may substitute strength for the social attribute. That's at rank 4. And of course, blood form. Vampire can physically transform all or part of the body into sentient vitae. This blood is in all respects identical to the vampire's normal vitae, and they can use it to nourish themselves, others, create ghouls, or establish blood bonds. If all the blood is imbibed or otherwise destroyed, the vampire dies. You can transform all of themselves as they see fit. Each leg can turn into 2 blood points worth of vitae, as can the torso. Each arm, the head, and abdomen convert to 1 blood point. And you basically use that however you need to, unless you expend it all, at which point you're going to die. Shall I continue on past rank 5, or have I established a point that Vicissitude is fucking scary?
By the time you get to rank 6, it really is up to your own imagination as a player and as a storyteller as to what you can do with this. We're pretty much fucking anything. I mean, you saw that with rank 5. You can just turn yourself into a pool of blood. You think you kill him? No. He's a blood puddle. He crawls away from you. He comes back a day later.
I'm gonna set a Roomba down next to him before he crawls away.
You gotta make sure you get him in the set guster before he escapes.
You get the Poltergust 2000 from Luigi's Mansion and suck up.
Yep.
Suck up a Tzimisce.
Absolutely, you do.
Oh yeah.
An entire plot of Ghostbusters based around hunting Tzimisce.
Buster
Who
makes
knew?
me feel good.
Who
Yeah.
knew this would come handy in vampire hunting?
This vacuum that I bought off of Temu.
Yep. Off it.
Now, we have a few more paths now that we understand what Vicissitude does. Let's talk about the path of Cathari now.
Path of Cathari.
If we could just do the ethics.
Yeah, I can do the ethics.
Now, keep in mind just how this looks nice, right? I mean, that's at the head of the Baphomet.
Yeah, with
Absolutely.
a sword through it.
Yeah, it looks nice, right?
It's fine, yeah. Except that your role is a creature of evil. Is
Yes.
predestined. Accept it and fulfill your purpose. You know? That's all you gotta do. Indulge
Evil.
in vice, wealth, and sensuality, and material power are the hallmarks of the material world. Lead others to temptation. It is your role to promote the depravity of the world. Grant the curse of Cain to those with great passion. On death is an evil curse, but those with great conviction can use it well. The entire material world is corrupt. Expect betrayal and wickedness, because almost everybody is corrupt along with it. Death simply leads to reincarnation. Mortals return after you kill them. However, you should avoid final death, since you will return to You will return as a mortal if you die.
Bullshit, that's not how that works.
These guys are fucking nuts. These are these are Setites light.
Notice that second paragraph. Vampires are the enchronic spirits, jailers of the demiurge. I'm talking about the worm here. You are directly in service of the worm when you take this path.
In case you didn't think you were evil enough.
A full-blown Satanist vampire that you get to play as with the path of Cathari.
Fun.
I love this sentence.
Say it.
The original Cathars believed the soul to be the root of all that is pure in humanity, while material body was a shell in a corrupt physical world.
That's metal as fuck.
Next up, it gets worse. Path of Evil Revelation.
Path of Evil Revelation.
Read the ethics off of this one.
Portal's own infernalism. Oh, dear lord.
Demon worship.
Also known as the Path of Enlightenment. Always remember that you are meant to serve greater powers of evil. Convince or bribe other vampires to serve evil. Fight against those who deny their evil nature. Never reveal your true motives. It is acceptable to engage in intrigues with the servants of other demons, but your loyalty to your lord and his other retainers must be absolute. Use the beast as a tool to spread evil.
Nefandi. This is what this is. You're basically Nefandi.
Nefandi
from
light.
Mage.
So we have Setite light and we have Nefandi light.
And next up, while this is objectively the best path, the Tzimisce did not invent this, but a lot of them do follow it because this is so integral to the Sabbat as a whole. The path of Cain.
If Sylvester was a Tzimisce, he probably would have been on this path.
If you didn't have Hieronymo in your life.
Yeah.
And now for the ethics off of this one.
The ethics. Restrain yourself and never get into extremes. Develop your willpower. Never give in to your beast. Learn as much as possible about the vampiric history in the first vampire. Take the blood of those who are unworthy in order to come closer to Cain. Accept your condition and that you are no longer human. If possible, leave the children of Seth alone and coexist with them.
Tell you who the children of Seth are. Cain and Abel, they had a third brother called Set that he didn't talk about, who created all the people that actually survived the flood and became normal humans. So, what this is, it is become the apex vampire. On top of that, they're in service to, which is a better idea of what the Sabbat should be, because they tried to say Cain was involved because the Camarilla kept wanting to deny the existence of antediluvians. We have a guy in the Carpathian Mountains you can talk to, guys. But what these guys with the Path of Cain is that when Gehenna comes, these guys are going to immediately rush to Cain's side, apologize for the sins of their father, and then try to help Cain the best they can in killing every other vampire until it's just them left.
So this is why I like
vampire
you
that kills other
restraint.
vampires. Why you like Sylvester? Is that what you say, Colt?
Yeah, that's why I like him. Practice restraint, develop willpower, never give in to the beast. I like that.
Except he didn't do any of that.
You gave it a shot.
He is the Zodiac after all.
That's true.
Now, next up, we have a few different types. We have a few archetypes you can follow.
Yes, we do.
Before we get into that, can I go over the ethics for metamorphosis? Because I didn't do that when I was
yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
Yep.
All right. So, learn the characteristics of all stages of life and death. One should not concern oneself overly with mortals, as they are inherently inferior to even the lowest kindred. Do not share knowledge with others, as it values lies in achieving it alone. Indulge the beast and deny it. True comprehension requires a broad range of experience. Alter your body in every way possible to find a way to fundamentally alter the soul. Do not heed the needs or desires of others, as they lack introspection, as their lack of introspection may distract even the keenest intellect.
Evil.
Yep, be evil.
You just gotta be evil.
Simple.
Get to use my hair for evil because I'm evil.
There you go. I got you.
Yeah.
It's very simple, you know.
Yep.
You see, the reason why you're involved in all this trouble, Colt, is because you gotta be such a good person all the damn time. That's why.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's what I get, but, well, it is what it is.
There we go. We got the evil on screen in history pages.
Yes, evil.
Gotta be evil.
Evil.
Yeah, you see that D&D evil campaign being played over there? Why don't you join it?
No. I'm not very good at being evil.
Gotta be evil.
John's been trying to turn me to the dark side for a long time.
Yes, because I'm evil. I've been a black spiral this entire time.
Yep. I'll fall for it. Well, I mean, no, if anything, as our resident glasswalker, you'd just be a drone. Which is honestly
I don't
scarier.
watch Jimmy Kimmel.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
Next up, the kinds of Tzimisce there are. We have the Metamorphosists, where I'm pretty sure that's self-explanatory given what we just talked about with the path.
Yes.
Yep.
So, the Metamorphosists. So, the Sabbat Tzimisce is typically espouse this over most other concepts. The Metamorphosists believe that humanity is just a precursor to vampirism, and so in turn vampirism is the prelude to some other wondrous state of existence. And through vicissitude, they believe they have the capacity to supersede innate human limitations to become godlike, and they only just need to find out how to do so. Most of those that are metamorphosists possess a sort of scientific bent. They seek enlightenment through a number of different unholy experiments, be it through their intense torture or whatever else they do to cause pain and destruction. They research life in order to better understand it, how to end it, and through learning all of that, they eventually try to learn how to transcend it. And it remarks in the book that they have a lot of mage allies who often remark the similarity between the metamorphosist Tzimisce and those that attempt to ascend. It's theorized that...
By mages, I mean Nefandi.
Yes, the Nefandi in particular. As we said in history, that Tzimisce himself was a mage prior to his embrace, or at least the closest thing they had prior to the Deluge, before mages. So,
and given that the traditions weren't really a thing yet.
Yes, as close as they could get. Next, we have the Neo-Feudalists. These tend to attract the older Sabbat Tzimisce. They remember the clans... They remember a lot of the clans' greatest days in Eastern Europe when they subjugated vast swaths of Eastern Europe, and they want to return to that where they can subjugate the human race and reestablish their domains of old. They believe that vampires should be able to openly rule and with only the support of their ghouls and their vassals. And they saw the dissolution of the USSR and the Warsaw Pact as a call to begin a reconquest of their ancient lands. Some neo-feudalists still to this day maintain expansive estates in very isolated areas. Although, because of their bent on personal wealth and personal gain, a lot of the Sabbat loyalists, question the neo-feudalists' loyalty to the Sabbat. However, they dutifully present their own children for their Vodzhd ceremonies, but many wonder if they will clandestinely break vinculums in order to maintain their sovereignty, personal sovereignty. That is. We have the Reclamationists. The Reclamationists carry the tenets of the path of Cain just one step further. They seek apotheosis by the most direct means possible. They believe that through diablerie and diablerie alone, vampires can govern their own evolution through the vitae of those more powerful than themselves. Remember a little while back when we were still doing the werewolf tribes, Tzimisce love to betray each other, and many of them who will are likely betrayed by reclamationists. The reclamationists see it as a pleasure and their duty to reclaim, quote-unquote, Cain's legacy from those they believe is unworthy, and they avidly advance jihad to devour other vampires they see as lesser. And like I said, even other reclamationists are fair game. And they believe that once they have gone through like the full swath of every Tzimisce, the last survivor of the jihad must find and drink the blood of Cain himself, and then use it to repopulate, and then the neo-godling can use it to repopulate the earth. They prefer to drink vampire blood exclusively, and they have a sort of flowchart as to who they would devour. They have, as the book reads, reclamationists avidly advance jihad, devouring all other vampires, be they lesser, that is reclaiming vitae wastefully or expended, equal, eliminating a potential threat, or greater, increasing one's potential. That is any and all vitae. So if the question is, do I diablerize? The answer is yes. They tend to haunt the
Just eat them,
Yeah. Drink the beer, pussy. They haunt the vanguards of the Sabbat war parties, and they actively advocate for human genocide. All of the stuff they did with the KKK and the Nazi Party, and turning people or embracing people in Harlem, that was mostly all the reclamationists. They rarely ever sire and spend most of their time in Zulu war form. Even other Tzimisce think that they're monsters. Even other Tzimisce hate them.
No, Now you know you're a bad person, but that's
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I literally took this guy from his family, tortured him for 8 months and then made him into furniture, but come on, dude.
You forcibly tattooed racial slurs into his skin using vicissitude.
Yep.
You've heard of the white tattoos, right? Where you take a hot needle and you mix tattoos with that.
Oh, no, that's fucked.
Yeah, I get to do that with scar tissue.
Jesus. And then we have the diversifists. So all vampires who recognizably descend from an antediluvian progenitor are corrupted by them, as believed by the diversifists. And they believe that only branching away from a blighted tree or destroying it from the root can sever oneself from the antediluvian's curse. They rarely ever fraternize with any other vampires aside from their own clanmates, that being Lasombra and or Caitiff. They exhort their Sabbat brethren to develop new means of self-expression. They try to evolve beyond the limited and self-destructive state of Cain. Most are active Tzimisce researchers, and the diversifists can display bizarre new disciplines almost entirely of their own invention. They're a very creative, scientific bunch. And they are also responsible for the creation of several unique Sabbat bloodlines, including the amorphous blood brothers as well. So they
check our Tremere video if you want to know how to make one of those.
Yes, that was the Tzimisce's fault, because everything seems to be. Jesus,
the Tremere, yes. The Tremere designed it. The Tzimisce perfected it.
Yes,
exactly.
The exsanguinists. The exsanguinists believe that blood is the prison chaining vampires to a lower state of being. They argue that vampires should have divorced themselves from the most primitive biological reactions of life, that is, the need for vitae. That they just don't eat. They believe that by attaining a state of purely will-driven existence that they can transcend and metamorphize, they practice esoteric rite, combining meditation and anorexia. They throw themselves into the minutiae of Sabbat existence because they really don't have a whole lot of energy after not eating for a couple of years. However, no exsanguinist has yet achieved transcendence, and most Tzimisce just think they're funny.
Got to do the No Nut November challenge
for
your
a
entire
century.
life.
Yes.
And you notice the whole transhumanism aspect with where that there was a goal with the clan once upon a time, but now they're just degenerates that destabilize and cause genocide because they think it's funny.
Yes.
You want to talk about the Bruhoff one apart? No, the Tzimisce don't even resemble what they used to be.
No. And this is what puzzles me, is like you said a while ago that the Tzimisce could just end the world on a whim. I mean, the Tzimisce himself probably could, but the Tzimisce as a collective, the
Tzimisce as a collective aren't going anywhere because the only thing that Tzimisce love killing more than innocent people is each other.
Yes.
And that's because during the whole Lugoj scenario, a lot of people realized Lugoj just diabolized the Eldest, plus diabolized Lugoj. You had all these different Tzimisce trying to compete with each other in who gets to diabolize Lugoj, where it was this King of the Hill game where the Eldest has won and has always won, and you're never going to get one up on this guy, but you keep doing this shit anyway, which started the whole infighting with the Tzimisce, because you've lost your fucking mind by becoming a Tzimisce. You're not thinking logically anymore, so you just do stupid shit like this all day.
So in a way, Samuel did succeed in a very roundabout way. He didn't manage to kill Tzimisce himself, but he showed that the Tzimisce's jealousy for each other's power would eventually stop them from being a unified threat against the world.
Yeah, he slowed down the apocalypse. He managed to delay it. For how long, we don't know.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Given how big Tzimisce is, do you think he could take on the worm? Or the wild?
You want to talk about the Gehenna scenario now?
That may be
no, we could do it later, but...
Because we have Times of Judgment Gehenna, which is how the metaplot of vampire can wrap up in a few different ways. And there are 5 scenarios in that book. 3 of them are started by Tzimisce.
I gotcha.
Okay. Fuck.
He's a very nice guy when you get to know him.
I'm sure he is.
Now, fun part. I think there's also 2 additional in no, I got the number mixed up. 2 of those situations in Gehenna are caused by Tzimisce. Transylvania Chronicles exists, which is an additional Gehenna scenario. Okay, okay. I'm fixing myself now. Speaking of which, before we get into relationship, we get some more story on the Salubri from the Tzimisce. Now, you remember that Salat got diabolized by Tremere. Now, a question you might be having is, why did Salat let that happen to him? You might be confused as to why I phrased it like that. You remember what discipline Salat has? You know, aspects. A guy can see the future. He learned that trick from Malkav and perfected it with him. He knew ahead of time that Tremere was going to do this and genocide his entire clan. As we are told in Transylvania Chronicles, Salat was faking being a good person the entire time. His creation of Clan Bali, he knew that Tzimisce was going to corrupt them. He knew that was going to destabilize the Middle East. He pretended to become enlightened in Asia and did the modification to his third eye because he wanted to create an image that he was a good person to the Wounded Gazelle gambit, where I'm the perfect victim, you're the perfect aggressor, people will rally to my side if you try to attack me. And he did all this masterful work where his children were the good people, he wasn't. And his plan from the beginning was that he was going to ditch his own clan in favor of the Tremere, where the entire time he was in Tremere's body, Tremere had lucid moments, but it was still Salat controlling the whole thing. Because Tremere didn't tell Goratrix to go to France. Salat told him that. And he was in control over Tremere during those times of lucidity. And when he wakes up, the first thing Salat does with that new body, fully in control of Tremere, that he goes over to our Goratrix's bases, blows it up, sends a letter to Goratrix telling him to come after him, telling him it was Etrius who did the crime. Etrius flees after seeing that it's Salat, only for Goratrix to arrive thinking he's going to get a duel with Etrius, only to get diabolized by Salat, who then walks willingly over to Transylvania and sits in the castle that used to be Dracula's. And there's a quote from Salat saying, "I went to Asia. I pretended to reach Golconda. I let everyone think that I succeeded. I hate humanity. I hate seeing people smile. I hate hearing the laughs of children. I hate seeing people in love with each other. I hate nuclear families. I hate God. I hate prosperity. I hate the world that I live in. Because I saw the future, and all I saw from my attempts to help you were you at each other's throats, destroying everything. Tremere would have destroyed me if I didn't do anything. I let it happen to him because I needed to prove the point that you are beyond saving. I hate humanity, and you deserve everything that's happened to you, every ounce of misery. It's all deserved. And what I'm going to do, now that I'm in my castle in 1999, is I'm going to do everything I can to expedite Gehenna and cause the end of the world."
So Salat pulled the wool over everybody's eyes.
If you believe that interpretation. In Transylvania Chronicles, that's canon. But in Nightshade in Gehenna, in the Gehenna book, that's not the case, and Salat was good. So now you have Schrodinger's character. Was Salat a good guy, or was he not? You have 2 paths to pick when it comes to his.
That is an apocalypse scenario in a nutshell right there. Does he or does he not destroy the world?
And speaking of, Nightshade begins with Tzimisce summoning himself in New York City, where he rips himself out of the ground and goes on a feeding frenzy. He digs a hole under the Atlantic Ocean to go to New York, and while he's there, it looks like every vampire in the region gathers together in one place to kill him. And it looks like they succeed, but it turns out, oh no, that was his pinky finger that he cut off and threw over into New York. You fought the tip of the iceberg, and that killed 3 million people while it was in New York.
Good lord.
But the thing is, you remember Kupala. As it turns out, in the night shift scenario, Kupala realizes he's been hustled and turns on the Eldest, resulting in him and Tremere entering this 3-man brawl where it's Tremere, not Saw Tremere, resulting in the death of the Eldest, the death of Kupala, and then Tremere, as he's pushing himself up off the ground after laying on the ground for a day, is about to turn on and attack everyone else, but then Salat flips the switch, takes over his mind, and behold, the 3 worst people in the world of darkness are dead in one day.
Well, shit, that'd be fucking fantastic.
But alternatively, you have the Crucible of God. This is the scenario that there is no answer to. I am posting the full portrait of Tzimisce in history page. Keep in mind what's in the background.
City, it looks like.
You see how massive he is in comparison to the buildings.
Yes.
What happens is that over the course of his entire existence as a vampire, Tzimisce figured out something about parasites. He's been plucking pieces of his body off and throwing them into the woods. And predator animals, prey animals have been eating pieces of his flesh, getting infected with vicissitude, which takes the form of a virus. It's a prokaryote. It's a living piece of Tzimisce inside of every vampire that knows vicissitude. You learn vicissitude, you're fucked. At any point, Tzimisce can take over you if you have vicissitude as a discipline. You don't need to be part of his blood anymore. You just need to have vicissitude because that's his cells inside your body. But keep in mind, all those animals that are eating pieces of Tzimisce without knowing, humans start eating that. And as it turns out, vicissitude is also a venereal disease. As those humans that ate the pieces of Tzimisce, not knowing what they were, intermingle with everyone else, it becomes a hereditary disease where pieces of Tzimisce are passed from person to person to person over the course of 12,000 years, to the point where the entire global population is corrupted and infected with Tzimisce. And the day he decides he's done playing games, seen all he wants to see, he's ready to take over the world, he's ready to ascend, he flips the switch. It's as easy as him lifting one finger, and vicissitude clicks off. Everyone's gene, the eldest gene in you, activates, and you all gather to Romania, where everyone's drawn to that point, where they all willingly fuse with the biomass of Tzimisce, leaving there a planet where there's only one person who has truly ascended and has become the one and only being on the planet, Tzimisce. There was no stopping him. If there was something you could have done with your plan, it was way too late to stop what had already happened. This is why the Sombra walked into the ocean to die, because he knew that Tzimisce pulled this from his spies, and knew that no matter how hard he kicked and screamed, there was no way La Sombra could stop Tzimisce from doing this. And that's how the world ends.
So the game was rigged from the start.
Yes. You lost 12,000 years ago. And how's that story end? Well, it can end either one of two ways. Either Tzimisce turns himself into his own rocket fuel and propels himself off the planet and starts traveling through space, eating La Sombra so he can use that shadow cloak, the obtenebration, to cover himself and a sun-resistant, sunlight-resistant shield. He can start traveling through space and one day find another planet to do the exact same thing on all over again. Or God himself, in a direct homage to Devilman, comes down from heaven and smites Tzimisce off the face of the planet. And then, seeing the planet, resets the entire universe to create another world where the Tzimisce never existed.
I feel like the latter feels a bit more plausible given the world of darkness.
God himself had to come down and fix the plot.
Well, yeah, it's God.
Now you may
So
be
how,
wondering, what?
so how did he get into Torpa?
He never
Torpor.
did get into torpor. That the curse of Cain. Cain, after his 3 kids died, set that off, or all the antediluvians start going into torpor. That never happened with Tzimisce because he was already in control of every single child he had. When his body went to sleep, he just jumped into another body.
Okay, I see. I gotcha.
After all, he can just reconnect with the biomass, and behold, it's like I never went to sleep at all. And that's the thing. You can't beat Tzimisce. And the question is, well, why hasn't he ended the world already? It's because he's amused. He's being entertained by the struggles of humanity. He finds all the stuff pointless, that you're fighting so hard to try to save a world where he's already in control. And upon him absorbing everybody, he will erase the concept of birth, erase the concept of preservation, erase the concept of death. He will overcome the Wild, the Weaver, and the Worm in doing so. That's why the clan logo is the Ouroboros. You were born in death. You were born in Tzimisce. You will die in Tzimisce. And he will overcome everything. The reason why he hasn't done this is because he's not done watching his little television program known as Life. He wants you to struggle and suffer a little bit longer before he activates his program to win the world.
Interesting.
And then
And that's
God
it.
says, okay, no, cut, we're doing this over again. That guy's
And-
fired.
Yep. But keep in mind, Kupala is still around in the Crucible of God area. So, who's to say that Kupala wouldn't have turned on Tzimisce? Because you still have the demon, the fallen demons. So Kupala could open a little hole to hell from all the suffering that was caused by Tzimisce. And behold, all 666 demons of hell come back onto the planet, kill the eldest, and then reclaim the planet as it was back before the Book of Genesis, where there were only the angels on the planet.
I mean,
And behold, you thought Tzimisce won? Nope. Lucifer wins instead. This is how fucked the World of Darkness is, dude.
well, if that's the case, well, we fight for one more day.
I think the only way you can really overcome this, there's no apocalypse scenario where Tzimisce doesn't suffer. No, where Tzimisce suffers. The Fallen Tribes, the Weaver Ascendant, and Ragnarok, he's fine in all 3 of those. I think the only way you can defeat this guy is either you do what the Changelings did and project yourself into space and escape, or Mass Ascension. That's the only way you can escape. You can't beat this guy, you have to escape him. That's the only way you can win this fight.
Current
And even
objective,
so, with Haunted
survive.
Reckoning, I don't even think the Hunters the Imbued could fight Tzimisce.
No.
Speaking of which, we
probably
gotta do Haunted Reckoning at some point soon.
at some point.
We'll put that on the burner. And while we're here talking about the world, let's do relationships now.
Yes.
We're all dead, but let's talk about the people in it.
Let's talk about the people that used to be on the planet.
Yes.
All right. So we're gonna start with the classic Bruja.
My boy Ragnar.
I'm gonna go through this. I'm gonna read, just read it word for word because it's easier than summarizing.
All right.
I talked to, or was talked to by a Bruja 2 nights ago. How he boasted of his valiant heart, how he vented his spleen. To hear him chatter, he alone had the spine to raise his fist in defiance and spit in the face of oppression. Quickly growing irritated by his incessant, Jesus.
Braggadocio. Or braggadocio.
Braggadocio. These guys use words that I can't even pronounce.
They were very sophisticated. We're Clan
Right?
Tzimisce. I would expect a man who's lived for only a half a century to understand the words coming out of my mouth.
Shut up.
Quickly growing irritated by his incessant braggadocio, I ripped out his heart, affixed his spleen to his buttocks, and twisted his spine into an ornate paperweight, and fused his fist to his mouth. So much for Clan Bruja.
And they have the same sentiment in second edition. I sent you the first edition pages. Pretty much the same thing as in second edition.
I gotcha.
Yeah, they say that this is a joke. They think they're us. You're not us. We're the smart ones here.
You aren't that guy, pal.
Not your pal, buddy. Anyway, Gangrel. At least they are not so stagnant of others of our species. Rather than seeking to transcend themselves, however, they have chosen to devolve toward their bestial state. Help them in their course whenever convenient. A few centuries ago, a dung beetle might do a gangrel good.
Oh no, I think I'm alright, mate. You can fuck right off back to where you came from.
In second edition, it takes them 7 lines to say that the Clan Tzimisce as a whole has no formal opinion on the gangrel.
It's 7 pages? No,
Yeah,
you
not
said
like
7 lines.
7 lines.
Yeah, 7 lines.
There's some fluff text in second edition where that's the reason why I didn't send it to you. They see that Clan Gangrel is a massive nothing burger.
I mean,
Uh,
Gangrel just kind of chill in the woods and eat things.
So like, well, let's say, behold, that's my next dinner, and they diablerize them.
Yeah. Moving on to the Malkavians.
Funny boys.
The cerebral processes of the Malkavians are fascinating and potentially useful. It is interesting to note that Malkavian brain, the subject of so much Camarilla concern, structurally differs little from the brains of other vampires. However, I once observed the Malkavian frontal lobe survive in a vat of
Formaldehyde.
formaldehyde. That I don't know why it looked like there was a space between. For a full 23 minutes after I extracted it from the cranium of its still living donor. Perhaps there is something to their battle of mind and body disassociation.
Here's the thing. Clan Tzimisce second edition tells no lies. You get 100% truthful information because the Tzimisce have no reason to lie to you about what they're telling you. And in this, they confirm what the Malkavians can't actually say themselves because it freaks them out too much. The way Cain drove Malkav insane was that he showed him what heaven looked like. And in doing so, one of two things happened. Either Malkav saw that heaven was possibly worse than hell and was driven insane by the horrors he saw in it, or he saw a paradise that he knew as a vampire he would never get to see, and the sheer despair of knowing that he would never get to that place broke him. It's one of the two.
I mean, both would break anyone.
Yeah, so behold, that's how you get under Malkav's skin. You just remind him of that.
Moving
Be
on
careful.
to...
Be careful about mad gaming. You can't use that information without knowing it. Character.
True.
Yep.
Nosferatu.
Nosferatu. All these millennia, and they still obsess over the trifling handicap we inflicted upon them at the dawn of time. The lowest among us can bestow or remove their taint with but a few needs of the finger. And remove it we shall. During the final nights, in exchange for unending loyalty, tempered by the eons of hardship and persecution, what soldiers they will make.
There's a fun little joke in here with the second edition, where they say, "Oh, my skin seems to have come off in the bath. Could you fetch my robe?" Where something you can do with the Nosferatu as a side hustle, just get a cloak mail skin, like the Buffalo Bill Silence of the Lambs skin suit, and just sell that to the Nosferatu.
Rubs the lotion on the skin.
You get to go to
Kiss
skin.com.
the hose again. The Toreador.
Yes.
The children of the night. What music they make. Will fall. Of what use are their pictures and poems? They vaunted Their vaunted talent is merely the swizzle stick with which they churn up their dull, vapid neurosis and spew them onto a defenseless canvas. And they expect accolades for such. Surely Cain would have thought twice about giving them the gift of eternity had he known they would spend it in such narcissistic masturbation.
Here's something funny. This is like fucked up too. The Tzimisce in second edition really like the Toreador. You want to guess why?
Why?
Sex.
Oh, I
And,
guess.
and not the consensual kind.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is Tzimisce we're talking about.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, that whole paragraph was like a giant tongue twister.
It feels like you're talking to a psychopath, doesn't it?
I mean,
Yeah,
they
well,
are.
What the hell is awful? Vaunted talent, swizzle stick, Jesus, vapid neurosis.
the vapid vocabulary of a non-Tzimisce like yourself, Sylvester.
Just
Mate,
it made my brain hurt.
you wanna get together, be like old times.
See, Sylvester would read that no problem. Ryan, on the other hand, is severely simple.
I mean, I feel like regardless, Sylvester would want to shoot him for talking like that.
Yes, absolutely. Who starts a sentence with a quote? Anyway, moving on to the Tremere. There's like one sentence. Two. Upstart human larva. Uproot them from their chantries, flay their skins from them, and expose them as the grubs they are.
They really don't like the Tremere.
It's not so much in second edition that they are upset about the elders. They're upset because the Tremere are a bunch of fucking posers that think they're better than the Tzimisce. That's what chaps their asses so much about the Tremere.
Kids, you're both just terrible. I mean, think of it like, no, the Tremere were just as vicious and cold, psychopathic anti-Semites as the Tzimisce. They're both fucking awful.
You're
That's
perfect
fine.
for each other.
Yeah,
That's why they hate each other. It's because they're going to try and see who's more evil.
Good lord.
It's like what am I thinking of? It's like sitting say I'm trying to think of like a good example.
Was Stalin and Hitler?
Yeah, it's like sitting them both in the same room. Just watching what
I'm
happens.
lining motherfuckers up, get a colat.
The Ventru.
The Ventru. And finally, a clan worth being called an enemy. Nay, arch enemy. True, they are fatally misguided dupes of the antediluvians, but I respect their dignity and poise. The last one I played with took 4 nights to scream and 12 to die. Admirable indeed.
Yay. The thing with the second edition is that the Tzimisce are pissed off about the Tremere saying, not the Tremere, the Ventru saying, what the fuck, when you did the Convention of Thorns, we didn't even get an invitation. You never invited us to join the Camarilla. I wonder why the Ventru didn't invite them.
True.
I wonder why.
Whatever could the reason be? Huh. Interesting.
They do say the Ventru are worthy opponents because these are the guys that pretty much are the Camarilla. So, behold, that's a worthy opponent in and of itself. And how much land they control and the Tzimisce don't.
And we
for the
come
Caitiff.
to someone close and near dear to my heart, Sylvester, the Caitiff. It is best to treat them with contempt, for in doing so we reinforce Jesus Christ, Ryan.
Jesus.
Right?
Prejudicial, there we go.
Prejudicial attitudes towards them. Thus, we need vampires for us in experiments. It is the simplest matter to frame one for some fictitious transgressions or other.
They bring up in second edition our character Joseph Panders, who is a caitiff that was serious as fuck and managed to rise up and change the image of the caitiff in the Sabbat, at the very least, overnight because of just how incredibly badass he was. And now he's got a little army of caitiff in what city is this guy in? Oh god, I don't remember. By the way, he controls his own city at the point. Like I caitiff in control of a town. Generation 13. Now for
I love the caitiff.
some now for Kyle's favorite.
Assamites. These Ottoman jackals have mastered the art of slaying, where they focus their efforts on mastering the rest of existence. They might truly be dangerous. As things stand, they are but tools, useful, though predictable.
I will show you how predictable I am when I cave your skull in.
The funny thing about the Assamites in the Tzimisce, that when the Ottoman Empire fell, the Tzimisce said, "Oh fuck yeah, we get to go to Arabia again," and they start making a beeline for the Arabian Peninsula. And the Assamites say, "Oh no, you don't," and the Tzimisce are laughing about it, saying, "Oh, what are you going to do about it?" And it turns out you can't form enough hearts fast enough, or the Assamites pop them with their human.
Yep.
So you can thank the Assamites for chasing the Tzimisce out of the Middle East.
As
So
they
the
should.
Assamites
Yeah,
are the only one who can take on Tzimisce, right?
Yeah, God knows we don't need the Tzimisce women right now. I'm bringing that up because of like the viral sexy Houthi vamp pirate.
Oh yeah, what the fuck was up with that? Why did that happen?
Why not?
Motherfucker makes more money fucking on OnlyFans than plundering ships in the South African Sea.
Yeah, but yeah, having Tzimisce like in Iran, for example, next to nuclear missiles, that's a bad idea.
A little bit.
Now for my favorite.
The Giovanni.
The Italianos.
Another bastardized line, but far more formidable. The Tremere are not but rapists, while the Giovanni seem instead to be the products of a deliberate and unholy spawning. And their powers. Why, I could call a soul back into its ruined frame again and again for the 1001 nights of pleasure. Yes, there is much to learn from these hybrids.
I don't even want to know the context of that.
They do with the Harbingers of Skulls. After all, they're talking about the Nagaraja, where watch Matthew Dawkins' video on the Nagaraja and the part that people that know the video, like the part where it gets really uncomfortable. That's what he's referring to. And
good Lord.
Now that the Cappadocians are back as the Harbingers of Skulls, they're very happy about that. They say you guys are weird as fuck, and we like it. We like you for being weird. Here, come over to dinner for us. Sit on my sofa, made out of the finest Persians. You thought I was going to say Persian rugs? No, it's actually people from Persia. And they have a wonderful time. He looks like a monster. He looks like a zombie. They're made for each other.
Yep, and they were best friends.
The Rabnos. Irritating vermin with no respect for another's privacy. Wait, huh? The Tzimisce is saying this?
Yeah.
When they annoy, remind them of a simple truism. It is very hard to filch when one has no fingers.
In second edition, the Tzimisce make a racist joke about the Ravnos.
My brother of Christ, you're both Romanian.
It's true.
The Tzimisce are the Romanian that doesn't begin with the letter G.
Ah, fair.
Never ask a man from East Europe what he thinks of gypsies. Never ask him that question.
Yeah. I don't know why people think gypsy is a slur.
I mean, the dudes refer to themselves as that. I mean, like, yeah, the politically correct term is Romani, but
Yeah.
at the same time, I don't see. I generally don't see an issue here.
No,
Like,
I watched Peaky Blinders. They called themselves that all the time.
yeah, it don't tell me it's like the N bomb where it's their word. Don't tell me that.
No. Okay.
Setites.
Moving on to the Setites. Clever, clever clan. So wonderfully, self-consciously wicked, they slither mesmerized around the flames of corruption, daring one another closer, always drawing back lest they singe their scales. We long ago realized that evil is neither a toy to play with nor a pyre in which to immolate oneself. It is a delicacy to be swallowed whole.
Of life. They bring up in second edition that they love buying stuff from the Setites. You know what the Setites sell?
Drugs and people.
Yeah, and they will buy children from the Setites, and will say, "Hey, kid, you want to play pinata?" And it will proceed to hang the kid from the ceiling on a hook, made from bones, and you can guess what they do from there.
Dear Lord.
They play pinata.
On a scale of zero being the Tzimisce and 10 being the Setites, how much do you like kids?
That's fucked up, dude.
That is.
Jesus.
You gotta have some gals humor when talking about these guys.
A little bit, yeah.
Now for their best friends.
La Sombra. No. Yeah, La Sombra. They are but empty shadows that flit across the stage we have constructed. Allow the shadow puppets to direct our shadow play, but, if necessary, do not hesitate to lift the curtain and dispel them amid the stark light of reality. I don't like the fact that they've got two separate points for commas there, but if necessary.
I don't know.
And
That's how this dude talks.
the thing is, with the little Sombra, does Tzimisce keep looking at the little Sombra saying, is it the time to take over the world now? Are we taking over the world today? And the little Sombra keeps saying, in a minute, we gotta actually establish territory first. Granted, they're doing a bang up job in South America because those Sabbat are everywhere in South America, from Mexico to Argentina. That is completely controlled by the Sabbat. Mainly the La Sombra, though. After all, you have the clan flaw with the Tzimisce, making it a little hard for them to spread out. Just a little.
Just a bit.
Now, the Inconnu, we can skip that because that's a plot point that got dropped.
Gotcha. The Camarilla. So transparently ridiculous and ridiculous it frightens me. This sect is either the flimsiest of screens for the antediluvians or an intricate Chinese box beyond even our capacity to unlock. Still, so is that serene or screen? Screen. Still, screen, box, no matter. We need only ascertain which is the proper tool: a knife to shred it, or a hammer to break its flinders.
Damn.
And I have a comment about this, but let's read the Sabbat section first.
Sabbat. In any experiment, one must have a control group and a group of test subjects. The Camarilla and the Inaku, Nkanu,
And Kano, you don't need to worry about them.
gotcha, are our group control, are our control groups. The Sabbat are test subjects. While we ourselves do not set the experiment in motion, the Jihad has produced most enlightening results.
They do bring up in this book the concept of Tzimisce anti-tribu. That's an oxymoron in and of itself because the Tzimisce, majority of them are in the Sabbat. I mean, 95% of Tzimisce are in the Sabbat. But occasionally, you'll get the rare Tzimisce that realizes that Sabbat fucking sucks and will join the Camarilla. Now, granted, your initiation cost is high. You've got to bring in 3 elder vampires of the Tzimisce, stakes in their hearts alive, to the Camarilla's ivory towers in order to get accepted as the Tzimisce into the Camarilla. And after that hard work, don't ever expect a promotion past sheriff. You will never get your own city to rule. They also have anarchs, which is much easier to join. But the anarchs are made up of Bruja and Gangrel, who typically don't like the Tzimisce, so it's very rare. If a Tzimisce tries to leave the Sabbat, more than likely they're either going to be in a really shitty job forever, or they're going to die. So it's either die on your own terms or die to a rival in the Sabbat.
Or, and hear me out, make your own clan.
With blackjack and hookers.
Which is what they do with the Black Hand.
The Black Hand, which is next, surprisingly. Our six, Jesus. Bogateers are mighty and wisely do our foes dread them. Still, the eternal stoicism and unquestioning loyalty disturb me. I would be far more comfortable with their existence if they tried to betray or usurp us at least occasionally. As it is, I am certain they plot something truly heinous.
This is Kane's little army. That when Kane returns, will be the ones that fight by his side and destroy the world. They want to destroy the world for Daddy Kane.
Something truly heinous coming from a Tzimisce.
That's kind of hard to fathom.
Right?
I mean, to be fair, given how fucking prissy this absolute fucking prick is, I imagine something heinous could be something as shallow as lighting his fucking Bentley on fire.
Right.
This guy's got a silver spoon up his ass a mile fucking wide.
That shoved between his cheeks. Look at the picture.
Yes.
Now for the fun one.
Now we move on to the Lupins, or the werewolves. Or their, cousins, whatever you want to call them.
Looked up cousins.
Brutal, barbaric beasts who spend their time baying at the moon and exploring themselves for parasites instead of exploring the possibilities inherent in their wondrous multiplicity of forms. Multiplicity of forms. There we go. Yeah. Furthermore, while I can accept and even appreciate the fact that they morally despise our species, I would prefer they simply got on with business of trying to kill us rather than perfuming their bloodlust and self-righteous will.
They've been trying to for 12,000 years. They've made no progress.
Their holier-than-thou litany about defending the humans from vampire
depredations
is hypocritical as it is nauseating. I remember more than one Shadow Lord whose coat swayed suspiciously sleek during a lean Balkan winter.
Now here's something funny in the second edition one. I'm going to read this verbatim. I have undertaken quite an extensive study of the shapeshifter. Their classification proved difficult. They breed like the Bruja sire. We have, however, isolated several species. The North American Glassnarcalan, for instance, is known to populate in cities, but their offspring invariably begin life deformed. Such cubs are universally infertile. How do they propagate? The Black Starwalkers, kin to the Shadowed Lord clan that harried us into the Carpathians, mate with no such complication, arising that they do form packs of ordinary wolves. A colleague believes that an offshoot of their line, one indigenous to Scandinavian, worships a trickster, a trickster god Loki. I reject this theory, for I find it inconceivable that such beasts practice anything resembling a religion.
I want to kill them even more now.
You combine the Bonars with the Glasswalkers and assume that every one of them is a menace. And then you say that the Shallards are an offshoot of the Black Spiral Dancers, where I guess you're not wrong saying that, given Hakakin exists in the lore.
Yes.
And then they bring up the Loki style, dude.
Okay,
they bring
so
that up.
The guy who researched the first edition book didn't do his fucking research.
No, second
Or
edition.
the second edition.
It's the Tzimisce know everything about vampires. They know nothing about anyone else. And why worry, right? I mean, you are the apex vampire. There's no point in learning stuff because you're never going to use it. It's you're looking up at your algebra teacher and saying, "When am I going to use this outside of school?"
Sure, though.
Yep.
Now for the wizards.
The wizards are the mages. Some claim that our clan's founder was of the awakened in life. In any event, we stand united with these sorcerers in our mutual contempt for the Tremere. We have long-standing alliances with certain orders of wizards. Alliances still maintained and honored, albeit clandestinely. Such alliances have proved most auspicious for our clan, for mages possess powers as formidable as they are subtle. They are known as progenitors. It is particularly intriguing body. We could learn much from it. Not that any of these things will stop us from drinking them to desiccated husks and liquefying their bones into pus once their usefulness has ended. Still, one must give credit where credit is due.
What convention did they just bring up? My convention.
What,
My
the
convention.
progenitors?
My convention, you remember what they are, right?
Progenitors.
Bioengineers.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You got injected with vicissitude by the progenitors.
Oh, no, they're fucked.
Yeah.
They're outlandishly fucked. Good
Dog!
Lord.
Dog! Dog!
The game really was rigged from the start.
Yes, it was.
They talk about, in Convention Progenitors, forming a cure for the vampiric disease. You dumbasses just injected yourselves with the same disease.
I mean, how else are you going to figure it out? Now time is of the essence. Figure it out.
Yeah. The fairies. There are powers in the world far older than we. Celtic, Twilight, and Victorian frippery cloak a grimmer reality. After all, the human mind was apparently able to cope with the horror of marauding vampires and rabid werewolves, for legends portray us in all our dark splendor. What atrocities did the fairies commit that forced the kind to veil them in the guise of wee folk and Robin Goodfellow, rather than accept the truth?
What happened is that the Unseelie, realizing that they were about to disappear from the Shattering, decided they wanted to go on a massacre, resulting in the Order of Reason writing them out of consent. That's what happened.
Writing them out of what?
Consensus.
So
gotcha. They changed the collective consciousness of the world, make them no longer believe in fairies.
But I do believe in fairies. I do.
And then the process of doing that made it impossible for a changeling for a fairy to exist in the material plane without binding itself to a human host. Next up, Golconda.
Golconda. Give me one
Fuck
second.
Golconda. All my homies hate Golconda, they say.
We do not aspire to a kind salvation. We instead fuck. I looked it up beforehand too. Transubstantiate our own salvation from kind's bodies and blood.
We don't want to get better. We want to get worse.
After much consideration, we have decided to become worse. Fuck these guys.
How can they get worse?
But they'll find a way.
We already
figure it
talked
out.
about that in the apocalypse
Yeah.
scenario.
They definitely will find a way. You're right. That's on me, guys.
And next up, we got a few generated characters I want to share with you guys.
I
So
will be
a
right
little
back.
bit of image dumping. We have 5 pictures I want to share. The AI coloring on I put enhance the image. It's getting better. They did an update on it. It's starting to look decent. So first of all, we got the postal dude. Yeah, here he is.
Hi there. Would you like to sign my petition?
That literally is the protagonist of Postal 1.
It really is.
So we got Public Shooter. That's the first guy you can play
People
as.
say I look like the postal dude. I don't know how I feel about that.
Next we got Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise with a fucking ridiculous smile. He used vicissitude on his fucking chin bones. Jesus.
That's literally Tom Cruise.
It is. Good lord.
Dude, there's a pre-made character in the La Sombra book that is literally Dale Gribble.
Damn.
As it like Dale Gribble from King of the Hill.
Oh.
And it's just him as a La Sombra vampire. Next up, we got a slumlord you can play as.
Why does he have flowers?
He's going to raise the rent. He's going to give those to you to say, hey, you want these flowers? Oh, by the way, I'm raising your rent by double the price.
Lovely.
Next up, the Siamese twin. Yeah, you heard that right.
Yes.
Yeah, so here's his picture.
Which one? The guy with 2 heads?
Yeah. You see that's grafted on. That's not
Good lord.
How does that
next
not
up-
breach the veil?
Because he works in a circus.
Yeah,
I guess.
it's
Yeah.
fun. Yeah, behold my Siamese twin, it's my brain dead brother who's stuck to my shoulder. And lastly, the image that gets worse the more you stare at it. Yeah, check this guy out. What's his deal, Kyle? What's
The
his
new
deal?
Prometheus.
What's his deal? See it?
Is that
See it
his
on yet?
hand?
I'm
See it?
looking. See the face, I see the
Uh.
camera, I see the suit covered in blood.
So the thing with that character concept is, the modern Prometheus is the name of Frankenstein, the original name of it. This is a Tzimisce who's going around cutting off people's body parts and grafting them to himself, replacing body parts like he's swapping out his.
Oh yeah, his arm is bigger than the other one.
Yeah.
Thicker,
there's
too.
there's some ideas as to what you can do with your Tzimisce.
Have fun, fellas.
And lastly, mixing the splats. Gotta mix the splats, right? We gotta have a fun time with this.
Yes.
Alright. Werewolf. Now they bring up a good point with what Ryan was saying. There is no real Tzimisce equivalent in Werewolf. Have the black spirals, but they have more in common with the Setites than they actually do with the Tzimisce. Funny enough, because you're both getting your powers from Banes. So what if you had werewolves who start taking inspiration from the Tzimisce and start entering a transhumanist perspective, not the way that the Glassworkers are doing it? That they're trying to unlock a 6th, something between Kranos, Hispo, and Glabro. And that's the premise of your chronicle.
I don't even know what the fuck that would look like.
You'd start looking completely abstract, is what it would look like.
Yeah.
Have you? It's a creepypasta called Dogscape. You haven't heard this, have you?
I think
You can't
I
say
might
that
have
I
seen
have.
like the title card. It was like one. It was just like a face of a dog covered in blood.
Yeah, so it's a world where all parts of the planet become body parts of dogs, as in the different flesh. This is what your sixth form would look like.
Good lord. That's hard to fucking look at.
We have unlocked the next transformation and evolution of the Guru Nation.
Mother Gaia frowns upon this transgression of her vision.
Why is there a mouth in the back?
Well, why not? Maybe somebody's trying to attack you from behind.
Yes.
And that's the fun you can do with a Tzimisce werewolf. I'm not even sure what to call these
That
guys.
shit looks like a Resident Evil 2 extra.
It could. So here's your fun with that. Next of all, the Shadow Lords, the Sorfangs. Who else can we get involved in this? The Gefenris, the Gehenna, the Wendigo, the Red Talons. 6 tribes that have a very good reason to hate the Tzimisce. I mean, behold, go nuts.
Yes.
You have plenty of reason to hate these people. But on top of that, you have the Society of Needhog, dude, where you can have that with the Shadow Lords being a set of Shadow Lords that are collaborating with the Tzimisce. That's what you can make the Society of Needhog if you wish that to happen, because those are Shadow Lords who are working with Sabbat in trying to induce Gehenna.
Yes.
So, fun idea for you there. Next up, see what you would do. Mages. Well, pick any Nefandi.
Yeah, they'd be best fucking friends.
There's also the other tradition. I can't see any other traditions getting along with them, even if there's something in it for them. I could see the Sons of Ether cutting a piece of a Tzimisce off and putting it in a little beaker, and then observing that little piece of the Tzimisce. And of course, it's going to result in the Son of Ether being killed, but at the same time, the Sons of Ether are fucking stupid. And we're going to discuss why when we eventually cover the Sons of Ether. You guys won the Darwin Award. But, the Verbena. The Verbena with the Life Sphere. And their magic specifically involving blood, urine, and seminal fluid are able to recreate the Zula war form Verbena magic.
Oh, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
You want to imagine what that fight's going to look like?
Disgusting. Just fucking foul.
Did you ever play Splatterhouse?
No.
No.
So let me show you what you can do with the Verbena and the Tzimisce trying to outdo each other. Okay, so we begin with pretty simple stuff. We'll start you off with this.
Oh, Splatterhouse. I thought you said Spiderhouse. I didn't know what that was.
That's Splatterhouse. Yeah, you get to play with the shrimp. We start you off with the shrimp. Next, we also have this.
Good lord.
Mages, right?
Yep.
And what's another really fun one in here? There's one creature in particular that I'm like, oh yeah, there he is. He's in a montage with a few other people. Yeah, okay, there he is. That's a picture of him.
It's like the the monsters from the original Quake.
It's him here. It looks like this.
Hey, it's Chainsaw Man.
Yeah. The Verbena are a fun group, right?
Yeah, a little fucked up.
And this is the kind of shit that you could expect from a Verbena versus Tzimisce fight. Also, both of them are equally racist. Well, the Verbena not nearly as much as the Tzimisce, but they both have had history with white supremacy within their groups. So we're not losing anything if either one dies.
Yep. Matter of fact, the world games exponentially.
And the Order of Hermes given that the Tremere left them to fight the Tzimisce, first of all, that's going to trap their ass. But second of all, if the Hermetics could find a way to fight the Tzimisce, I think that would be a fantastic bookend for the Order of Hermes, doing what Tremere failed to do. And possibly you can end it with reaching mass ascension, but dealing with the Tzimisce threat when they couldn't. That would be a fantastic end for the Order of Hermes.
Yeah, it would.
Next up, Changelings. Nightmares forever, right?
Yes. Forever. Like endless drama.
You like
Yep.
Junji Ito, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, yeah, the plot of the apocalypse sounds like the plot of a Junji Ito book.
You get a little closer to your microphone. You watched Us, didn't you?
Us?
I have not.
Yeah.
That I did not.
The premise of that movie is that it's the exact same as what the Tzimisce Antediluvian is doing. Where it's a simulation plot where you have doppelgangers replacing you, and then those doppelgangers fuse to be part of a greater whole. And there's no real solution to stop it.
Here's an odd thing. If that's the
Yeah.
case, Vigo's main priority is to be him forever.
Yes.
I can't imagine he'd enjoy that very much.
Nope. And at some point, the Tzimisce Antediluvian will screw him out of the deal. You just can't win with this. you can't
really
win with
cannot.
the Tzimisce, dude. Can't win. I mean, being a Tzimisce, you will feel instant gratification with what you can do with Vicissitude, but in the long term, you will realize just what a mistake you've made. And
That's a very long term, though, I imagine.
so
Yeah. It's
the
gotta
whole
be.
the Unseelie and the Shower Court will get plenty of inspiration for what they can fill the nightmares of children with after seeing one Tzimisce in action. To hang out next to your bed and psychically project your nightmares into your brain.
Yeah, the
Scare
Unseelie probably
you.
have no shortage of inspiration after what happened in New York.
Nope. Nope. Go start feeling the fears of nuclear warfare again.
Yep.
And what's next? Rates. Well, given how many people the Tzimisce have killed, there's no shortage of ghosts.
Yes, but I doubt Tzimisce can interact with them.
Nope. The Tzimisce could try because, magic is practiced among them. So they could eventually spec enough points into spirit where, by the way, the Tzimisce can step sideways.
They what?
This is the
What?
second group that can do that
Why?
because they can spec into spirit, and thanks to Koldunism, they can do that.
Fuck
All
me,
right.
we're not safe anywhere.
They can chase you into the Umbra, and they can chase you into the Shadowlands.
All they need to do now is just keep being friendly with Giovanni and learn their stuff so they can make their own.
We invite you over for a beautiful pasta dinner, and you gave me your very suspicious marinara sauce. I asked you for your recipe. You didn't share it with me. And even though it tasted a little funny, it was very delicious.
You need to put less sugar in it next time, but other than that, Amaro.
You made a very good ravioli, I swear. And next of all, well, I think we've already described Demon to Fallen as to how this is all a big shtick for the Luciferians or the Faustians to eventually take the world for themselves.
Yes.
I mean, if you want to have it be Kupala is wearing the pain in the relationship, or Kupala's got the better deal, eventually screwing the Eldest out of the plan after Crucible of God, and then the planet is then repopulated with demons. And then behold, you've now made the Devilman Crybaby World Darkness game. And what's next? Hunters? I'm struggling to think of how the hell you're supposed to pull this off with Hunter the Reckoning. Because, no, it's easy enough because, hunters, but how are you supposed to beat the Antediluvian?
Well, you can't.
With the god powers. I mean, God smites him in Crucible of God, but I'm thinking, you do have the level 5 conviction. But those are powers that are so strong. A Hunter the Reckoning core book tells you the minute you unlock a level 5 conviction, that game has to end with that day. That game has to end that day. because now you've got a power that's so incredibly strong, it's going to break every encounter in the.
So Conviction 5 is the final goal.
Yeah, where
the only other way you can prevent Gehenna.
Yeah, you've maxed out your virtue, and now you've got the level 5 conviction, level 5 edges, and you've got the holy fire of Mount Sinai shooting out of your eyes. Will that be enough to fight the Antediluvian? I honestly don't know.
Well, from a stats perspective, I think it depends.
I told you that Punch of the Reckoning is fucking broken because the Wayward can deal 10 damage. 5 of it pierces with a pickaxe.
I like that.
Absolute ridiculousness, right? And that's a wrap. What's our closing thoughts? Well, the closing thoughts on this.
Even though at any point in time Tzimisce can get bored, he hasn't fucked with us yet. So at the present point in time, keep on fighting
until you're big enough to take him on.
Hell yeah!
And the thing is, we gotta find the Gehenna. In terms of the Gehenna, have the right idea. We need to get the Dream Speakers to Arret 10 and Master Sind already.
Yes. You know what would take care of him?
What's
a
that?
nuke.
It.
Would it though?
Say it.
I mean, a nuke is essentially fire.
I mean, it hit Ravnos in the face, and he kept going.
Oh.
Yeah. They've nuked Ravnos. It didn't work.
And we are going to change gears for the next episode.
Are we?
Changeling.
Oh, fun! Cool. How are we doing?
We get to talk about something happy next episode.
Yes, I think we need a little bit of joy in this because past couple episodes been a little dour.
We're talking about the furries next episode.
Oh, the puka, right?
Yes. We gotta get Ryan a fursuit for the episode first. You want me Grandma RL?
No.
I don't know. Anthro Northeast just started up last weekend.
You get to go to a convention, but it's full of awkward people that want to stay away from you.
Fucking Werewolf the Apocalypse campaign. You run into a furry convention. How embarrassing would that be?
Furry conventions fucking suck, dude. Everybody there is just antisocial.
No, I've heard that the raves are a lot of fun, and you just don't get drunk with people because somebody got. Well, numerous people got sexually assaulted, but
I'm trying not to smile about that. I'm thinking about the situation where the guy jizzed in the elevator on the control panel.
The what?
Yeah.
I don't understand people.
Oh my good lord!
It's sexual deviance. There's nothing to understand.
They are Setites incarnate. Fuck. I think that's a wrap for tonight, folks. I'm gonna end the video. Good night, everybody.
Have a good night.
Next week we get to teach Kyle what docking is.
Shut the fuck up.
The end.